Have you ever been in that moment when someone said something hurtful, and your chest just tightened up? You want to reply, maybe shout, maybe prove them wrong, but something deep inside whispers, just stay quiet. But then again, how can we? When words burn, silence feels impossible, right? Imagine this. You're standing with a friend, and out of nowhere they insult you in front of everyone. You freeze. Your mind starts running 1,000 thoughts. Why me? What did I do? That silence doesn't feel peaceful. It feels painful. But what if that silence could actually become your strength, not your weakness? That's what today's journey is about. Learning how to stay silent when you get insulted, not out of fear, but out of wisdom. The kind that Buddhism teaches so gently. The kind that turns noise into calm. Welcome, dear listener, to Wisdom Woven. Here, we walk through the stories and teachings that help us stay peaceful even when life feels unfair. If you find meaning in these words, don't forget, there are so many views on this channel, but only 0.3% subscribe. So please like, comment, share, and subscribe. It really helps this little space of calm reach more hearts like yours. Now, take a slow breath, because silence isn't about shutting down, it's about tuning in. Buddhism teaches that when someone insults you, they are only revealing the storm inside them. Your reaction decides if you carry their storm into your heart or let it pass. The Buddha once said, "If someone offers you a gift and you refuse it, who does it belong to?" The same goes with insults. If you don't accept them, they stay with the one who spoke them. Such a simple idea, but it can change everything, can't it? So when words sting, pause. Don't rush to defend or explain. Just breathe and let the moment pass through you. Silence, when chosen with awareness, is not weakness, it's grace. It's strength that doesn't need to shout. This is just the beginning of a beautiful lesson. Stay with this journey, because the deeper we go, the more you'll see. Silence doesn't mean losing your voice. It means finding peace within it. Come, sit for a moment. The wind outside may be restless, but here, in this small corner of stillness, we can talk quietly. Today, I want to tell you something very simple, something people often forget when they are hurt by words. You see, when someone insults you, you don't just hear the sound. They touch something inside you. And that something, it reacts, it burns, it wants to speak back, doesn't it? But before you open your mouth, before you let that fire move, it's worth pausing for a moment to look a little deeper. The root of insult is not in the words. It's in what the words awaken inside you. When a person throws harsh words, those words fall on everyone's ears, but only some people bleed. Why? Because each of us carries hidden wounds, memories, insecurities, small places of pride or pain. An insult only finds power when it hits one of those places. When it doesn't, it just drifts away like a leaf on water. So, when someone speaks badly, the first question isn't, why did they say that? It's, why did it hurt me? In Buddhism, this is called looking beyond the surface. Life is always speaking, but not everything that reaches us must stay within us. Most of the time, the person insulting you isn't even aware of what they're doing. They're carrying their own frustration, their own fear, maybe some hidden sadness they can't even name. It leaks out through sharp words. Just like when a boiling pot overflows, it's not the pot's intention. It's just the heat inside that has nowhere to go. I once met a young man who came to me after an argument. His eyes were red, his voice trembling. He said, "Master, my friend humiliated me in front of everyone. I stayed silent, but now I feel heavy here." And he touched his chest. I smiled softly and asked him, "When your friend threw his anger at you, Did you catch it? He looked confused. What do you mean? He said. Did you take it in your heart? I asked. Did you take ownership of his anger and make it your own? He thought for a moment, and then tears filled his eyes. That was the moment he understood. The heaviness wasn't what was said to him. It was what he decided to hold on to. When life gives you bitter words, you have two choices: swallow them and suffer, or let them fall away untouched. Silence doesn't mean you agree with insult. It means you refuse to join in the noise. In a world where everyone wants the last word, the person who stays silent is the one who has already found peace. Think about that. You can shout and prove yourself right, or you can be still and stay free. Which one really wins? There's a small story I often tell. Once, two monks were walking by a river. One monk was older. The other was young and full of pride. They met a woman who needed help crossing the water. The older monk lifted her, carried her across, and continued walking. Hours later, the young monk exploded. How could you touch that woman? You broke the rule. The elder smiled. Brother, I put her down hours ago. Why are you still carrying her? That's how insults work too. Someone throws words, and you carry them for hours, days, sometimes years. The one who said them has already forgotten. But you keep holding the stone in your pocket, wondering why it hurts to walk. When we understand this, compassion begins to bloom. You stop seeing the one who insults you as an enemy. You start seeing them as someone trapped in their own pain. Maybe they didn't have someone to listen to them. Maybe life taught them to fight instead of feel. And when you see that, your silence becomes kindness. You don't feed their anger. You simply let it pass. Silence becomes your way of saying, I see your pain, but I will not add mine to it. Buddhism teaches that the mind is like a pond. When an insult falls on it, if your mind is disturbed, the ripples go far and wide. You lose your reflection, your peace. But if the water is calm, the stone simply sinks, and soon the surface is still again. So, the practice is not to control others. It's to keep your pond clear. No matter what falls into it, you remain still enough to see the sky. Sometimes people think silence means weakness. But tell me, who is stronger? The one who shouts in anger, or the one who stays calm in truth? The one who shouts may win the crowd, but the one who stays silent wins the soul. There's a quiet kind of courage in not reacting, in choosing your peace over your pride. When you do that, the other person's words lose their sharpness. They fall, one by one, into nothing. A friend once asked me, Master, doesn't staying silent make me look like I don't care? I told him, you care deeply, but you choose wisely where to spend that care. Every time you react, you spend energy. Every word you speak carries a cost. Choose when it's worth paying. Not every insult deserves a reply. Sometimes, your peace is the best answer. The more you understand this, the lighter life becomes. You start noticing things that never bothered you before now slip away without touching you. You see someone scolding, and you almost smile, not because you mock them, but because you see their struggle. You see yourself too, how once you would have reacted, and now you simply breathe. That's growth. That's freedom in action. When you are insulted, your ego rises first. It wants to defend its image, to say, I'm not what you say I am. But the Buddha said, if you know yourself, what others say cannot touch you. When you know your heart, you don't need to prove it. The more you chase after validation, the more you hand your peace to others. Let them keep their words. You keep your calm. Sometimes silence isn't immediate. Sometimes you'll feel the sting, the heat of anger rising, and that's okay. You're human. What matters is what you do next. Maybe you go for a walk. Maybe you breathe. Maybe you say nothing until your heart is soft again. Then, if you need to speak, your words will come from clarity, not from pain. Silence gives space for truth to arrive. Look at nature. The tree doesn't argue with the storm. It bends. It lets the wind scream and the rain pour. And when it's all over, it still stands. That's how silence works. It bends without breaking. It allows the noise to pass, knowing peace will return. There will be people who test you, who mistake your silence for surrender. Let them. Time will show the truth. In the end, peace always has the last word. When you stop needing to win every argument, you win your life back. So next time someone insults you, pause for a heartbeat. Don't rush to defend yourself. Just look at them gently, even smile if you can. Say nothing, but inside whisper, "I wish you peace." Then walk away, light as wind. That's not weakness. That's mastery. The deeper teaching of Buddhism isn't about escaping pain. It's about transforming it. Every insult becomes a chance to see your own ego, to know where you're still attached. Each time you stay silent with awareness, you polish your spirit a little more. You grow lighter, kinder, freer. You start living not as a reaction, but as a reflection of calm. And slowly, something magical happens. The same situations that once hurt you begin to teach you. You stop seeing enemies and start seeing mirrors. Life stops being a battlefield and becomes a classroom. You no longer run from pain because you've learned to sit with it, breathe with it, and let it dissolve. So, my friend, remember this. Silence is not empty. It's full of understanding. Every insult you face is an invitation to know yourself better. The more you choose silence with awareness, the more unshakable you become. You stop living at the mercy of others' moods. You carry a quiet sky within you. When someone insults you, it's like thunder. It may be loud, but it doesn't last. The mountain does not reply to thunder. It just stands, unmoved, watching the clouds pass. Be that mountain. Let your silence speak what words never can. And one day, when you look back, you'll smile at how far you've come. You'll realize that every insult, every harsh word, was actually guiding you toward peace. You'll see that silence was never about staying quiet. It was about listening to your own heart in the middle of the noise. That's the beauty of this path. It doesn't make you colder, it makes you gentler. You learn to respond not with anger, but with awareness. You learn that the world doesn't need more noise, it needs more understanding. And maybe, just maybe, your silence will teach others to find theirs too. The Buddhist view of ego. Why we react to insults. My dear friend, let us sit together and breathe for a moment. Close your eyes if you like, just for a little while, and let the world's noise soften. I want to talk to you about something very close to every human heart. Ego. Yes, that little voice inside us that rises up the moment we feel attacked, insulted, or looked down upon. Most people don't realize it, but this ego is like a small child who cries when it doesn't get attention. And when someone insults us, it feels as if that child is being hurt, so naturally, we rise to defend it. But the Zen way, the Buddhist way, asks us to notice this child, to see it without feeding it, and to understand why it cries so loudly. You see, ego is like a mirror that reflects not only who we are, but who we think we should be. When someone insults us, it doesn't matter what they actually say. The mirror shatters because it touches something fragile in our own reflection. Perhaps we are afraid of looking small, Or perhaps we are afraid of being unseen, unnoticed, unvalued. The moment we feel insulted, our ego reacts instinctively, as if our very existence is being questioned. And in that reaction, we lose peace. This is why Buddhism teaches us not to cling to the image of ourselves too tightly, because the image is always vulnerable to attack. I remember sitting by the river once with a young student, a boy full of anger and pride. He came to me, his voice shaking. "Master, someone called me worthless today." I felt humiliated. I wanted to yell, but I held back. Still, I feel heavy. I looked at him kindly, not with judgment, and asked, "Do you know what that heaviness is?" He shook his head. I said, "It is the voice of ego, crying because it thinks its value is in the hands of others. Your weight is not from the words themselves. It is from your ego believing the words are truth." He was silent for a long time, and slowly I saw comprehension soften his eyes. Ego, my friend, is like a small fire. It is warm, it gives you energy, but if left unchecked, it can burn everything in its path. We are taught to recognize this fire, not to suppress it, not to shame it, but to watch it. When someone insults us, the fire flares, and we feel like we must strike back. We must defend. We must prove our worth. But the truth is, defending the ego rarely brings satisfaction. It only fuels more fire, more tension, more unrest inside us. Buddhism shows us that the self, the ego, is not the ultimate truth. It is an illusion, a temporary structure built on thoughts, experiences, and memories. When insult touches this illusion, it trembles, and we mistakenly believe that the whole self is being attacked. But it is only a layer, only a story we tell ourselves about who we are. The moment we see this, the insult loses its power. You begin to notice that the person speaking harshly is caught in their own story as well. Their words are clouds passing through the sky of your mind. They are not permanent. They are not the sky itself. There is a teaching that I often share with those who struggle with pride and anger. Imagine carrying a heavy basket filled with stones, each stone labeled with a memory of insult, shame, or fear. Every time someone says something hurtful, we throw another stone into our basket. Eventually, the basket becomes unbearable. Now, picture setting the basket down, emptying it one stone at a time. That is what understanding ego allows us to do. The basket is not taken from us by silence. It is released by awareness. Many people ask me, "Master, how can I stop my ego from reacting when someone insults me?" And I smile, because it is not about stopping. It is about noticing. When insult arrives, feel the flaring of ego, the heat in your chest, the tension in your shoulders. Don't judge it. Don't push it away. Simply see it. Say to yourself, "Ah, here you are, little one. You feel afraid. You feel unseen. I see you." And in that gentle seeing, the ego begins to soften. Ego often clings to validation. It wants recognition, approval, or respect. And when it does not get these, when words are harsh or dismissive, it reacts as though the world is unfair. But remember, the world has never owed us anything. Our self-worth cannot be borrowed from others' opinions. It is like trying to hold water in a basket. You must learn to cultivate a sense of value from within. When the ego feels safe within, insults pass like wind through trees. They rustle, but they do not break branches. I want to share a small story from the Buddha's life. Once, someone threw mud on his robe. His disciples were shocked. They whispered, "Master, how can you allow this? They insulted you." The Buddha did not react with anger or resentment. He simply wiped the robe and continued his path. Why? Because he did not see himself as the robe, nor as the reputation. He knew the insult had no true hold over the essence of who he was. The ego was not feeding itself on the incident, and therefore the moment passed peacefully. When we react to insult, it is often because we identify too strongly with our ego. We think, I am my image, I am my pride, I am my reputation. And when that is shaken, fear arises. But if we can see ego as a story, as a small child seeking attention, as a fire that can be watched without feeding it, then the fear dissolves. You begin to live with a heart that is spacious and calm, a mind that is clear like still water. Anger and ego are companions. The moment you feel insulted, anger often rises hand in hand with ego. But the anger is a messenger, not a tyrant. It tells you, here is a place where your attachment is strong. When you notice it, without acting upon it, it begins to soften. This is the practice: watching, feeling, understanding, not suppressing, not exploding, simply observing. Imagine sitting by a quiet stream. A leaf falls into the water, and ripples spread. If you reach in and try to stop the ripples, you will only disturb the stream further. But if you simply watch, the ripples fade on their own. The ego, when insulted, is like that leaf. Reacting fuels the ripples. Observing allows them to settle naturally. It is not always easy, my friend. Ego is clever. It whispers. You must defend yourself. You must prove them wrong. You must show your worth. And sometimes, even when we try to remain calm, it erupts. That is why we must practice daily, gently. Meditate, breathe. Notice the subtle movements of pride and fear within. The more familiar you become with these small stirrings, the less they will control you when insult arrives. Sometimes, even our silence can become an act of ego if it is done for pride or superiority. True mastery comes when silence is chosen out of awareness and peace, not as a weapon or as a shield to appear better than others. Ego is subtle. It can hide behind kindness, patience, and stillness, so we must watch carefully. The beauty of understanding ego is that it opens the door to compassion. When you see that insults trigger ego, not truth, you begin to understand others' struggles as well. You see that they, too, are children of fear and attachment. Their words, harsh as they may be, are cries of their own small selves seeking recognition, struggling with their own insecurities. And in that understanding, your heart softens, your mind becomes spacious, and silence becomes natural rather than forced. It is a long journey, my friend. One day, insults may no longer sting at all. Or if they do, the sting will be brief, like a fleeting shadow across sunlight. You will notice the feeling, honor it, and let it pass. Ego will whisper, but you will not be compelled to obey. The world may continue to judge, criticize, and speak harshly, but your inner world will remain calm. When you cultivate this understanding, you begin to live differently. You speak less from fear or pride. You act less from a need for recognition, and you breathe more in harmony with the present moment. Insults no longer dictate your mood. Anger no longer tightens your chest, and the heart feels lighter with every passing day. Remember, the practice is not to destroy ego, for ego cannot be destroyed. It is part of being human. The practice is to know it, to watch it, and to choose your response consciously. When insult comes, respond not with reactivity, but with awareness. Let your mind be like clear water, your heart like soft earth. Words can fall, but they cannot move the ground itself. And so, my friend, when someone insults you, notice the ego rising, notice the fear, notice the pride. Speak not immediately. Act not hastily. Just breathe, just observe, just let the moment pass. In doing so, you cultivate a mind that is unshakable, a heart that is gentle, and a life that is free. This is the essence of the Buddhist view of ego. The reason we react, the reason we suffer, and the path to freedom through awareness and love. The power of mindful silence, holding peace in chaos. Come, my friend, let us sit quietly for a while and speak gently about something that touches every human heart. The power of silence. You see, silence is not just the absence of sound. It is a presence, a kind of living space inside us where peace grows. Many people think silence means weakness, that it is a surrender to the words of others, that it is emptiness. But true silence, the kind that Buddhism teaches, is alive, strong, and wise. It is like the deep roots of a tree, unseen, but holding everything above with steadfast strength. When life throws insults at you, when people speak harshly or unfairly, the mind wants to explode. It wants to shout, to defend, to explain, to punish. And it feels almost impossible to stay quiet, doesn't it? Yet, in that very pause, in that moment of mindful silence, there is tremendous power. To understand this, you must first understand that reacting immediately is rarely necessary. Most words are fleeting, most judgments are passing. If you respond from the heat of emotion, you let them take a piece of your peace with their noise. But when you stay silent, when you breathe and watch, you reclaim that peace for yourself. I remember one day, a young man came to me, eyes red from tears. He said, "Master, someone insulted me at work. I felt humiliated, and I wanted to yell back, but I stayed quiet. Still, I feel the anger in my chest." I nodded slowly. "Yes," I said. "The words are gone, but the feeling remains." That is why silence alone is not enough. You must practice mindfulness alongside it. You must be aware of the feeling, acknowledge it, let it exist, and allow it to pass through without clinging. And in that gentle seeing, he began to breathe easier, as though a weight was lifting from his shoulders. Mindful silence is not the absence of thought. It is the presence of awareness. It is like sitting by a river and watching the water flow. When a stone falls in, ripples spread across the surface, but the river does not fight them. It does not try to stop them. It simply allows the ripples, then returns to its natural flow. Your mind can be like this river. Insults, harsh words, and provocations may ripple across your surface. But if you watch with mindfulness, they do not disturb the depth within. Many people struggle with silence because it feels passive. They feel they must respond immediately to protect themselves, their pride, their reputation. But consider this. When you act from the fire of anger, you are feeding it. When you respond with measured calm, you do not extinguish the flame, but you prevent it from controlling you. Silence, when paired with awareness, becomes a shield and a source of power. You are not hiding. You are not surrendering. You are choosing peace over reaction. There is a story of two monks traveling through a village. They met a man who was angry, shouting insults and throwing stones. One monk became fearful, ready to defend himself. The other simply stood quietly, observing the man's anger, noticing the pain in his eyes, noticing the tension in his body. When the man finally exhausted himself, he left. The first monk asked, "How did you not react?" The elder smiled. "Because I saw his anger as a visitor, not as a threat. And I knew it would leave if I did not feed it." When we practice mindful silence, we do the same. We see the anger, the harsh words, the insults, and we recognize them as visitors, not as truths. They are expressions of fear, frustration, or misunderstanding. They are not the reality of who we are, and in recognizing this, we are free to remain calm. We do not react, but we do not ignore. We are fully present, fully aware, fully alive, yet untouched by the chaos of the moment. Silence also allows space for reflection. When we pause before responding, we give ourselves time to understand the situation, to see it clearly, to notice our own feelings. How often do we speak in haste, only to regret our words later? Silence is a gift we give to ourselves, a pause that prevents unnecessary suffering. In that stillness, clarity arises naturally, and with clarity comes wisdom. I often tell my students to imagine carrying a heavy bag filled with stones, each stone a word of anger, a comment of insult, a judgment from another. Every time we react hastily, we add more stones to the bag. But when we practice mindful silence, we begin to set the stones down, one by one. We notice them, feel them, release them. Our hearts grow lighter, our steps freer. The bag does not vanish, but it becomes manageable, and eventually, it is no longer a burden. Mindful silence is also a teacher of compassion. When you do not react in anger, you create a space where understanding can grow. You see that the person who insults you is trapped in their own suffering, just as you once were. Perhaps they do not know how to speak kindly. Perhaps they are tired, fearful, or lonely. By remaining silent, you do not join their cycle of pain. You break it with awareness. Your calm becomes a subtle lesson, a quiet example of peace in the midst of turmoil. One young woman came to me frustrated because her friends constantly criticized her. She said, "I want to shout, to defend myself, but I try to stay quiet, and yet, I feel powerless." I looked at her with gentle eyes and said, "Power does not come from the volume of your voice, but from the stillness of your mind. Observe your feelings, notice your impulses, let them pass, and your inner strength will grow." Silence is not weakness. It is the heart learning to be steady. Over time, she learned to feel less affected by criticism, and her calm presence began to transform her relationships. The world is full of noise, full of opinions, full of harsh words. If we always react, we lose our peace. But if we learn mindful silence, we gain something far greater than a heated argument. We gain ourselves. We learn to navigate chaos without being swept away. We learn to respond with thoughtfulness rather than reflex. We learn to hold our hearts tenderly even when the world is harsh. Mindful silence also teaches patience. When someone insults you, when anger rises in your chest, patience is the quiet voice that says, "I will not let this take me away from my peace." It allows you to breathe, to watch, to wait. It gives time for understanding to emerge, for wisdom to grow. Without silence, patience cannot exist. Without mindfulness, patience is only pretending. But together, they are a fortress, a sanctuary for the heart. Even the Buddha spoke of silence as a form of strength. He often remained quiet in the face of harsh words, teaching that the mind can be unshaken even when the world tries to provoke it. Silence is not emptiness. It is the full presence of awareness, the calm center in the midst of storms. And when you cultivate this power, you begin to see the impermanence of insult, the temporary nature of anger, the fleetingness of judgment. There is a small teaching I often share. A man once asked the Buddha, "Master, how should I deal with people who insult me, who speak badly of me?" The Buddha said, "If someone gives you a gift and you do not accept it, to whom does it belong?" The man thought and said, "It belongs to the giver." The Buddha nodded. In the same way, insults, harsh words, and judgments belong to those who speak them. If you do not accept them, they do not touch you. This is the essence of detachment. It is the art of not taking what is not yours, of keeping your heart free from things that do not belong to you. Detachment also teaches patience with ourselves. When words sting, when insults feel sharp, we may be tempted to beat ourselves up for being hurt. But detachment is gentle. It says, it is natural to feel pain. It is human to react, but this does not define you. Notice it, feel it, and release it. Over time, the mind grows resilient. It no longer clings to the edge of every insult, the tip of every judgment. It becomes spacious, like a calm sky that receives clouds without being clouded itself. Many people ask, Master, does detachment mean I should never speak up? I smile and say, detachment is not silence, it is wisdom. Sometimes speaking up is necessary. And when you do, speak from clarity, not from the fire of reaction. When you are detached, your words are measured, truthful, and kind. They do not carry the weight of ego, because the ego has been gently watched and understood. Detachment does not prevent action. It enables it to be wise. There is also a quiet joy in detachment. When you let words pass through without holding them, you discover a freedom that is gentle and tender. You notice that the world continues with its noise, its judgment, its praise, and yet you remain whole. You feel the simple pleasure of being present in your own mind, of walking without the burden of others' opinions, of breathing without carrying the weight of anger or hurt. This joy is subtle, but it is profound. Practicing detachment does not mean never being affected. Sometimes the words still hurt. Sometimes the ego still wants to rise. That is human. What matters is that you notice, that you choose awareness, that you allow the experience without letting it control you. Each time you do this, you strengthen the mind's ability to remain free, the heart's capacity to remain soft, and the spirit's courage to continue on the path of peace. Detachment is also a teacher of impermanence. Words, insults, anger, they all pass. Nothing is permanent. When you detach, you begin to see clearly that what seems important in the heat of the moment is fleeting. The mind may stir, the heart may ache, but the moment itself does not last. And the more we notice this, the lighter life becomes. I often tell my students to notice the body when practicing detachment. When insulted, where does the tension arise? Is it in the chest, the jaw, the shoulders? Breathe into that space. Allow it to soften. Notice the feeling, let it move, and release it. Detachment is not only mental, it is physical. It is learning to allow the body, heart, and mind to move with the flow of life rather than resisting it. The beauty of detachment is that it also changes our perspective on relationships. When we do not cling to every word, every judgment, every slight, we see people more clearly. We see them as they are, imperfect, struggling, human. And in seeing them without distortion, we respond with more kindness, more patience, more clarity. Detachment does not make you cold. It makes you tender. It does not make you distant. It makes you deeply present. The path of detachment is long, gentle, and quiet. It is not measured in dramatic victories over others' insults, but in the small, steady practice of letting words pass through without sticking, of watching the mind without judgment, of holding the heart without fear. Over time, the burden of judgment, anger, and pride grows lighter. Your mind becomes a calm space where the world may speak, but you remain whole. So, my dear friend, remember this. To be detached is not to be empty, it is to be full, full of awareness, full of kindness, full of calm. When insults come, when words sting, breathe, notice, feel, and release. Let them pass through you, like water over stones, without taking root. In this gentle practice, you discover freedom, peace, and the quiet joy of walking through life unburdened by the words of others. The story of the empty boat, a lesson in non-reaction. Ah, my dear friend, come, sit with me for a while. Let us speak quietly about a story, a simple story, yet one that carries a deep teaching about life, anger, and the art of non-reaction. You see, many of us spend our lives like rivers buffeted by waves, reacting to every ripple, getting carried away by every disturbance. We are insulted, offended, criticized, and we react immediately, as though the world itself has conspired against us. But the teaching I want to share with you today, the story of the empty boat, shows us another way, a gentler, freer way to live. There was once a man, a boatman, who was rowing across a quiet river. The morning sun reflected softly on the water, and the air was cool with the scent of the riverbank. He was alone, content, feeling the simple rhythm of the oars and the gentle sway of the boat. But suddenly, without warning, another boat drifted toward him. The boat collided slightly, and the man in the boat felt a surge of anger. "How dare they?" he shouted, his face hot with irritation. His heart raced, his fists clenched, and he wanted to strike or curse. Then, in a quiet moment, he noticed something. There was no one in the other boat. It was empty. The collision had happened not because someone intended to harm him, but simply because the boat was drifting along with the current. There was no malice, no intention, nothing personal. And in that simple realization, the anger that had burned so fiercely began to dissolve. He laughed softly to himself, a laugh of relief and wonder. The world had not attacked him. His mind had created the story of attack. Ah, my friend, do you see? How often do we encounter insult, criticism, or harsh words and immediately assume it is about us, as if the universe has singled us out for suffering? The truth is, most of the time, the words, the anger, the actions of others are like the empty boat. They drift along, not aimed at us at all. Yet our minds, like the first boatman, collide with them, and we create our own suffering through reaction. This is the beauty of the story. The empty boat teaches us that non-reaction is not about ignoring life. It is about seeing clearly. It is about noticing the waves, the ripples, the disturbances, and understanding that they do not always carry intent or meaning. Sometimes, the insult is not truly an insult. Sometimes, the harsh word comes from fear, frustration, or misunderstanding. And sometimes, like the empty boat, it comes from nothing at all, drifting along in life's current. I remember a young student coming to me one afternoon, his eyes clouded with anger. He said, "Master, someone insulted me today. I felt so attacked. I wanted to yell, to defend, but I stopped myself. Still, I feel a storm inside." I nodded, understanding the turmoil that words can create. "My dear one," I said softly, "imagine the empty boat. The insult is like that boat, drifting along. There may be no one in it. There may be no intention to harm. Your anger is like a collision. You are reacting to what may not even be there. Observe, breathe, and notice. The storm within you is yours to calm, and it begins with awareness, not with retaliation. Non-reaction does not mean passivity, my friend. It does not mean allowing harm to come without defense. It means choosing your battles carefully, choosing which ripples to respond to and which to let pass. It means cultivating a mind that observes before it acts, a heart that feels without immediately reacting. When we practice this, we free ourselves from much unnecessary suffering. The empty boat shows us that often, the harm we feel is created entirely within our own minds. There is also a lesson of humility in this story. When the boatman realized the boat was empty, he had to confront the truth that his anger, his fear, his indignation were his own creations. He had interpreted an event in a way that made him suffer. And so must we learn, my friend, to notice how often our mind interprets the world in ways that are not accurate. The words spoken at us, the actions that touch us, may not be aimed at us at all. They may be drifting empty, waiting for our recognition, waiting to teach us how to respond with calm, detachment, and mindful silence, which we have spoken of before, tie closely with this story. When you realize that the insult is like an empty boat, drifting along, you naturally do not react. Your heart remains steady. Your mind does not erupt. You are free to observe the moment, to feel it, to understand it, and then to let it go. The words may reach your ears, the actions may brush past your life, but your essence remains untouched. I often tell my students to practice this with small things first. A careless comment, a minor irritation, a slight misunderstanding. Notice it. Observe your feelings. Take a breath. Ask yourself, is there really a person trying to harm me here? Or is it like the empty boat, drifting along in the river of life? This practice, repeated gently, builds a resilience that becomes natural. The mind learns not to react to shadows. The heart learns to remain soft even when touched by the storm. One afternoon, a monk asked me, "Master, what if the insult is real? What if someone truly means harm?" I smiled and said, even then, notice carefully. Sometimes the harm is not what it seems. And even when it is, your reaction is your own. You can choose to respond from fear and anger, or from awareness and calm. The empty boat does not guarantee safety from the river, but it teaches us that not every wave requires struggle. Some can be observed, felt, and passed without collision. The story also reminds us of impermanence. Just as the river flows, just as the empty boat drifts and disappears into the distance, so too do insults, anger, and criticism pass. The words may linger momentarily, the sting may be felt, but eventually they fade. And the longer we practice noticing them as empty boats, the less they disturb the calm center within us. Life becomes lighter, gentler, and more spacious. Even when the boat is not empty, the teaching still applies. When someone acts with intent to harm, when words are sharp and clear, the first step is still awareness. Observe your reaction. Notice your rising anger, your tightening chest, your flaring mind. Respond from clarity rather than reflex. The empty boat is a symbol, a tool for training the mind, a reminder that often, suffering is created by our own collisions with life's drifting events. Sometimes I see students clinging too tightly to what they perceive as attack. Their mind seizes the words, the gestures, the looks, and they carry them everywhere. The empty boat asks us to release. It asks us to see clearly, to notice the passing nature of events, to distinguish between what is truly meant to harm and what is merely drifting by. In this distinction lies freedom. There is also humor in this story, my friend. How often do we get angry at what is not even real? Imagining malice where there is none, building mountains from sand. When the realization comes that the boat is empty, a soft laughter often rises within us. A laugh at the cleverness of the mind, the smallness of the imagined attack, the unnecessary tension we carried. Laughter, gentle and aware, becomes part of the practice, part of the release. Non-reaction, as shown in the empty boat, is a practice of presence. It is a practice of seeing the moment fully, without distortion, without automatic response. It is a practice of compassion, for ourselves and for others. By not reacting to imagined attacks, We prevent unnecessary suffering. By allowing the moment to flow, we cultivate peace. By watching the empty boat drift, we learn how to navigate life with clarity and grace. Even in modern life, the story remains true. Insults online, careless words from friends, misunderstandings in families, criticism at work, all are empty boats in some form. They drift along. Some carry intention, some carry ignorance, some carry nothing at all. By practicing non-reaction, by observing, breathing, and letting them pass, we create a sanctuary within ourselves, a calm place where anger and hurt cannot take root. Ah, my friend, the river flows. Boats drift, words fly, life continues. And in all of this, you can remain steady. Your heart can remain soft. Your mind can remain clear. The empty boat is always there to remind us that not every collision is personal. Not every wave requires struggle. And not every disturbance needs to disturb the stillness within. So, when the next insult comes, when the next harsh word approaches, remember the empty boat. Notice your rising anger. Take a breath. See the word, the gesture, the criticism, as it is. Let it drift past. Hold your calm, hold your heart, hold your mind. And in doing so, you practice the gentle, powerful art of non-reaction, the path to peace, freedom, and a steady heart in a turbulent world. Breathing through insults, the Zen practice of inner calm. Ah, my dear friend, come closer and let us speak quietly today about something that touches every heart. The practice of breathing through insults. You see, life has a way of testing us. People speak words we do not like. Harshness drifts toward us. Judgments fall like cold rain, and our hearts want to storm, to defend, to fight back. It is natural, yes, to feel hurt, to feel anger, to feel the fire rise. But in these moments, the breath, simple, gentle, and always with us, becomes a bridge to calm, a sanctuary for the heart, a teacher that reminds us we are more than the words thrown at us. I remember a young man coming to me once, his shoulders tense, eyes heavy. He said, "Master, someone insulted me today. I could feel my mind explode, my chest tighten, my fists clench. I wanted to respond, but I remembered your words about the empty boat, about silence. And still my heart raced. I nodded slowly, understanding the turmoil. Ah, I said softly, this is where the breath becomes your ally. Anger may rise, insult may sting, but your breath is always here, steady, returning you to your center. If you notice it, if you follow it, it can carry you through the storm. Breathing is not just air moving in and out of the body. It is life itself, a rhythm that connects mind, heart, and spirit. When insult strikes, our minds often tighten like a fist closing over pain. The breath, when consciously noticed, softens the grip. Inhale deeply, feeling the chest and belly expand. Exhale slowly, noticing the release. With each breath, the fire of reaction cools, and a gentle clarity emerges. You begin to see the insult not as a personal attack, but as a passing cloud, a moment in the endless sky of experience. I often tell my students to imagine their breath as a river, flowing gently, carrying away tension, fear, and anger. Each inhale brings calm awareness. Each exhale releases the clinging thoughts that stir the storm within. When insult comes, we may feel a collision inside, a rising turbulence. But if we breathe deeply and with attention, the turbulence begins to settle. The storm does not disappear instantly, but it loses power. Your mind begins to regain its natural stillness, and your heart begins to feel spacious again. There is a story I like to tell of a monk walking through the marketplace. A merchant yelled harshly at him, words filled with accusation and insult. The monk paused, took a slow breath, and continued walking. He did not ignore the words. He heard them, acknowledged them, felt the heat of irritation rise, but he did not react. With each step and each conscious breath, his mind became calm, his heart soft, his spirit steady. The insult passed, but the monk remained untouched, free to continue his journey with peace. Breathing through insult is not a passive act. It is an active engagement with life, a choice to respond from clarity rather than from reflex. When we breathe consciously, we step back from the edge of reaction. We notice the rise of anger, the tightening of the chest, the burning in the face, and we allow these sensations to exist without letting them control us. We witness them, we feel them, and we let them pass with the rhythm of the breath. I once guided a young woman who struggled with criticism from her peers. She said, "Master, their words cut me deeply. I feel small, weak, and angry all at once. How can I remain calm?" I asked her to close her eyes and breathe with me. Inhale, long and steady. Exhale, gentle and full. Feel the air move through your body, I said softly. Notice the tension in your chest, the tightness in your jaw. With each breath, allow the tension to soften, to flow away. Over time, she discovered that the breath was a safe place, a refuge where insults could arrive without forcing a storm inside her. Breathing also connects us to the present moment. Anger and hurt often arise because our mind drifts into stories, imagining slights and offenses, replaying words again and again. The breath, simple and immediate, draws attention to now. Inhale. Feel the air enter your body. Exhale. Notice the release. One moment, one breath at a time, and the mind stops racing into imagined battles. The present moment, pure and simple, holds no judgment, no attack, no malice. Only the quiet rhythm of life itself. Even when words sting deeply, the breath becomes a teacher. It shows us impermanence. The harsh word that seems like a mountain now will fade. The anger that rises like fire will cool. The mind that wants to react violently can be soothed, guided, and softened. Every inhale and exhale is a reminder that life flows, that moments pass, that suffering is temporary if we allow awareness to guide us. I often tell my students, when insult comes, imagine yourself as a tree in a gentle wind. The wind may shake your branches, ruffle your leaves, even toss small twigs into the air. But the trunk remains steady. The roots remain firm. Your breath is your trunk and roots. Feel it, anchor yourself, and the wind cannot uproot you. The breath teaches stability. The breath teaches presence. The breath teaches that the heart need not be disturbed by every gust that blows. There is also a tenderness in this practice. Breathing through insult is an act of self-compassion. It says to your own heart, I see your pain. I feel your anger. I honor these feelings without letting them control me. Many people try to suppress anger or pretend they are unaffected. The breath does not require suppression. It allows feeling. It allows sensation. It allows human vulnerability to exist safely, and it carries it gently toward release. Imagine a young monk insulted by an elder in the monastery. Words harsh and cutting. The monk felt the old sting of pride, the heat of embarrassment, the rush of desire to respond. And yet, he paused. He noticed his breath, long and slow. He watched his thoughts rise like clouds. He felt his chest tighten, then soften. And slowly, the anger dissolved. The words remained, the moment remained, but he did not. He remained calm, gentle, and untouched. This is the power of breathing with awareness, even in the face of insult. Sometimes the mind resists. Sometimes the breath feels shallow, the tension hard. This is normal. The practice is not about perfection. It is about noticing, returning, observing, releasing. Each breath is a chance to return to center, to reconnect with a steady heart, to touch the calm at the core of being. Over time, this practice softens the mind's sharp edges, strengthens the heart's capacity to hold tenderness, and deepens the awareness that the world's words do not define us. Even in daily life, the practice applies. In traffic, a harsh word may cut across your day. At work, criticism may sting. At home, arguments may rise. Pause. Inhale. Exhale. Notice the tension. Feel the heart racing. And then let it flow. Let it pass. Let the present moment hold you in its quiet rhythm. The breath becomes a teacher, a guide, a friend who never leaves. Breathing through insult also deepens understanding of others. When someone speaks harshly, it is often born of fear, pain, or confusion. The breath allows us to witness their struggle without taking it on ourselves. We create a space where the mind can remain clear, the heart can remain soft, and compassion can arise naturally. Without breath, we are reactive. With breath, we are wise. I often tell my students to practice this in small steps. Begin with a word, a glance, a minor slight. Notice your reaction. Inhale, exhale, observe, let it pass. Then, gradually, the larger, more personal insults lose their power. The mind learns that it can be calm amidst the storm. The heart learns that it can remain gentle even when challenged. The spirit learns freedom, one breath at a time. The breath reminds us of impermanence. Each inhale and exhale is a rhythm of coming and going, of moments arriving and departing. The insult that seems so heavy is a passing moment. The anger that burned like fire will cool. The mind may want to hold on, but the breath teaches release. Awareness deepens. Peace grows. Through breathing, we also discover patience. Anger, hurt, and the desire to react may arise quickly. The breath slows us down. It teaches waiting, noticing, allowing, and responding with care. It reminds us that life is not urgent, that not every disturbance requires immediate action, and that sometimes the greatest wisdom is simply to breathe and observe. Ah, my dear friend, in this simple act of breathing, we practice presence, resilience, compassion, and patience. We learn that insults do not have to disturb the heart. We learn that anger can be observed and released. We learn that the mind can remain clear, the heart soft, and the spirit steady. With each inhale, we anchor ourselves. With each exhale, we let go. Life flows, words pass, and we remain free. Observing the ego. Why insults only hurt if you let them? Ah, my dear friend, come sit a little closer. Let us speak softly about something that quietly controls so much of our suffering. The ego. Many of us do not realize how tightly we cling to this sense of I. This small story we tell ourselves about who we are. And when someone insults us, when words pierce the heart, the ego rises like a shadow, screaming, "This is my honor. This is my dignity. How dare they?" It is this very part of us that gives power to words, that makes us burn with anger or collapse into sadness. Yet, if we learn to observe the ego, to notice it without feeding it, we discover something remarkable. Insults hurt only if we let them. I remember a student coming to me one morning, his eyes heavy with worry. "Master," he said quietly, "someone spoke harshly to me, and I feel humiliated. I cannot stop thinking about it. I feel small. I nodded, understanding the weight of his feelings, and said, "Dear one, look carefully. Notice the feeling in your chest. Notice the stories your mind tells about the insult. Who is it that feels humiliated? Is it you, or is it the little self, the ego, clinging tightly to a story of respect and image? The ego is a clever creature. It loves to tell us that every word, every glance, every slight is personal. It loves to make mountains from pebbles, storms from breezes. When insult strikes, the ego leaps forward to defend itself. It wants to argue, to fight, to lash out. It wants to cling to pride and image, as though the whole world will collapse if it does not defend itself. And so we suffer, not because of the insult, but because the ego has built a fortress around it, inviting anger, resentment, and fear inside. I often tell my students a simple practice. When you feel insulted, pause. Notice the ego rising. Observe it like a child throwing a tantrum. You can say softly, there is the ego feeling hurt, wanting to defend, wanting to prove something. Do not judge it, do not fight it, do not chase it away. Just observe. The moment you see it clearly, the ego begins to lose its grip. The insult loses its power, because the story of I that once held it tight is no longer feeding it. There is a story of a young monk who was often teased by others in the monastery. At first, he reacted angrily, felt deep shame, and wanted to leave. One day, I asked him to sit quietly and notice the rising feelings. Feel the heat in your chest, I said. Notice the tightening in your jaw. And now, notice the voice in your mind, repeating the insult, replaying the hurt. As he observed carefully, he realized the insult was like a cloud passing over the sky of his mind. The sun of awareness was always there behind it. The ego wanted to fight the cloud, but he did not. And slowly, he felt calm, free, untouched. You see, my friend, observing the ego is not about suppressing it or pretending it does not exist. The ego is part of being human. It is the habit of self-reference, of identification, that comes naturally. But we do not have to give it the steering wheel. We can watch it, feel it, notice how it tightens and twists, and then breathe gently through it. The insult no longer has to control the heart. It can pass like a wave across the surface of a calm lake, leaving the water beneath still and undisturbed. Even the harshest words, even the deepest insults, lose much of their power when we observe the ego, because the pain is not outside. It is in our identification with the insult, our insistence that the words define us, our attachment to the story of I and my dignity. If we loosen this grip, we find that much of the suffering was never real, that it was born entirely in the small, fearful self clinging to its image. I recall a young woman, her voice trembling, who said, "Master, someone called me worthless. I cannot stop thinking about it." I asked her, "Who is thinking this? Who feels worthless? Can you see the small self clinging tightly, fearing rejection?" She looked at me with wide eyes, and slowly, a small smile appeared. She said, "So the hurt is only here in me and my ego. It is not the truth." Yes, my dear, it is not the truth. The insult is merely words, passing through the world. They only wound because we allow the ego to be pierced. Observing the ego also teaches humility. When we notice how much of our suffering comes from the ego, we see how often we inflate our importance, how often we imagine that the world revolves around our image. This does not mean we do not care for ourselves, but that we recognize the ego is a lens, not the ultimate reality. When someone insults us, we begin to see the distinction between the small self and the true self. The heart that remains calm, the mind that remains clear, the spirit that remains steady. I often ask students to visualize the ego as a small child holding tightly to a toy. The toy is their identity, their image, their pride. When insult comes, the child cries, throws a tantrum, shakes with fear, and clings even tighter. But if you watch the child gently, without anger, without interference, without judgment, the child begins to calm. Slowly, softly, it lets go. The toy may be lost, but the child is still whole, still breathing, still alive. This is how we relate to our ego. Observe it, notice it, and do not feed it the story of insult. Even in the busiest life, the practice works. At work, at home, on the street, insults will appear. People will criticize, mock, judge. The ego will rise, demanding a response, crying out for defense. But if we pause, if we notice the rising tension, if we watch the small self and its fears, we see that the insult is not the enemy. The ego is not the enemy. Both can be observed, and both can pass. The heart remains free, the mind clear, and the spirit undisturbed. Ah, my friend, this is the essence of wisdom. It is not in silencing the world, not in forcing people to respect us, not in controlling their words. It is in noticing the stories we tell ourselves, the ego's endless chatter, the tight grasping at image and pride. Insults only hurt because we allow them to pierce the fragile shell of self. When we observe, when we breathe, when we notice the mind, the insult passes like a shadow, leaving the sun of awareness shining steadily behind. The practice is patient. It is gentle. It does not require rushing. Each insult, each slight, each harsh word is an opportunity to watch the ego, to notice the stories, to see the arising and passing of thought, emotion, and sensation. The mind becomes like a clear pond, reflecting the world without distortion. The heart becomes soft, holding compassion even for those who seem to harm. The spirit learns freedom, one gentle observation at a time. Even for the deepest wounds, the observation of ego is a beginning. It does not erase history, it does not prevent life from being challenging, but it gives us space. Space to breathe, space to feel, space to respond wisely. The moment the ego is seen clearly, the power of insult begins to dissolve. We are no longer at war with the world. We are no longer trapped in the stories of pride and image. We are free, simply by noticing, simply by observing, simply by being present. And so, my dear friend, remember this always. Words, actions, insults, and judgments pass like clouds across the sky. The ego may rise like wind, shaking the branches of your mind, stirring the heart. But if you watch it, if you observe without feeding it, if you breathe gently through it, you remain steady. You remain soft. You remain free. Insults only hurt if you let them. Observe the ego, and you reclaim peace, clarity, and the calm of your own being. Responding without reacting, the silent power of wisdom. Ah, my dear friend, let us speak today about something subtle, yet so powerful. The difference between responding and reacting. In our lives, when insult or harsh words strike, the mind often jumps to reaction. A sharp retort, a defensive gesture, a rising anger. These are the reflexes of a mind untrained, a heart unpracticed. Yet there is a way to meet these moments with wisdom, to navigate the storm of words without losing calm, to hold the mind like a still pond while ripples appear on the surface. This is the silent power of wisdom, and it begins with awareness. I remember once, a young monk came to me, his face flushed, eyes wide with frustration. "Master," he said, "someone insulted me. I wanted to shout back, to defend myself, but I remembered your words about silence, about calm. And yet, I felt helpless. How do I respond without reacting? I smiled softly and said, "Ah, dear one, the first step is to notice. Notice the rising of anger. Notice the heat in the chest. Notice the tightening of the jaw. When you observe these sensations, you step back. You create a space between impulse and action, and in this space, wisdom can enter. The silent power of wisdom is not weakness. It is not surrender. It is not avoidance. It is presence. It is the ability to see clearly what is happening within, to understand the mind's chatter, and to choose a response that aligns with clarity rather than emotion. Reacting is like a leaf caught in a strong wind, tossed here and there without direction. Responding, guided by awareness, is like a tree rooted deeply, its branches moving gently with the breeze, but never uprooted, never broken. In practice, when insult comes, the body may tremble with reflex, the mind may flare with stories, and the heart may ache. Pause, breathe, notice the sensations without judgment. The mind may say, "They must be punished. They must know I am hurt." But the wise heart says, "Ah, there is the mind wanting to react. Let us observe. Let us breathe. Let us be present." Each moment of conscious breathing softens the grip of impulse, creating a calm field where thoughtful action may arise. I once guided a student through a difficult moment. A peer spoke cruelly, words sharp as knives. The student felt the familiar heat of reaction, the desire to shout back, to wound in return. I asked him to sit, to close his eyes, to notice the body. "Where do you feel the anger?" I asked. "In my chest," he replied. "And the mind?" "Racing, full of words." I nodded. "Good. Now breathe with it. Do not push it away. Do not indulge it. Breathe slowly, noticing every sensation. Watch the rising, the staying, the passing. In this watching, the mind begins to calm, the heart softens, and a response arises that is measured, gentle, and wise. Responding without reacting also involves understanding the nature of the insult. Often, harsh words are born not from truth, but from fear, pain, confusion, or ignorance. When we observe this, our heart can soften toward the speaker, not with judgment, not with surrender, but with clarity. The insult is seen, the ego is noticed, the mind is steady, and compassion can arise naturally. A response may be a gentle word, a quiet acknowledgement, or even complete silence. The choice is made from awareness, not from habit. There is a story I like to tell. A monk was walking through a village when a villager shouted at him, words filled with accusation and blame. The monk could feel the familiar heat rising in his chest, the tightening in his shoulders. But he paused. He breathed slowly, noticing the body, the mind, and the ego. And then, with calm clarity, he spoke softly. "I hear you. I see your pain." The words were few, yet they carried peace. The villager stopped, startled, and the moment dissolved. The insult had no power, because the monk did not react. He responded. Responding without reacting is a lifelong practice. It is gentle, subtle, and requires patience. It is about noticing the moment as it arises, about observing the body, the mind, and the ego without attachment. It is about breathing, softening, and allowing the moment to be fully seen. And then, from this calm clarity, a response emerges naturally, appropriate, and effective. The mind is free, the heart is soft, the spirit is steady. Even in daily life, this practice is available. At work, when criticism stings, pause. Breathe. Notice the mind's stories, the ego's rise, the heat in the chest. Observe without feeding the fire. Then, respond with awareness. At home, When words of frustration fly, pause, breathe, feel the sensations, watch the thoughts, and choose a response that aligns with calm. In traffic, in line, in crowded streets, the same principle applies. The mind may want to react, but the heart can choose a response rooted in presence. The beauty of this practice is that it transforms suffering into awareness. Every insult becomes an opportunity to witness the mind, to see the ego, to practice patience, and to cultivate wisdom. Each moment of conscious response strengthens the heart, softens the mind, and deepens presence. The world continues to speak, to challenge, to test, yet we remain anchored in calm awareness. I remember teaching a group of students about this. One young monk asked, "Master, what if the insult is repeated, persistent, cruel?" I smiled and said, that is the true test. Repeated insults challenge the depth of your calm, the patience of your heart. Observe each moment freshly. Breathe. Do not let the mind cling to the past insult or anticipate the next. Respond from presence, not from memory. In this, you cultivate strength and peace that no word can shake. Responding without reacting also deepens understanding of ourselves. We begin to notice habitual patterns. How quickly we react, what triggers us, what stories the mind tells. Awareness brings insight. Insight brings freedom. Freedom brings peace. The mind, once a stormy sea, becomes a clear lake. The heart, once tense and tight, becomes soft and spacious. The spirit, once disturbed, becomes steady, anchored in presence. Sometimes, the response may be silence. This is not avoidance, but wisdom. Silence can be the most powerful response. It carries no reaction, no escalation, no surrender. It is simply presence, the calm witness to life unfolding. In this stillness, the insult loses its weight. The mind remains clear, the heart soft, the spirit unshaken. I often tell my students to practice with small moments first. A word, a glance, a minor slight. Notice the body, the mind, and the ego. Pause, breathe, observe, respond consciously. Gradually, larger insults lose their power. The mind learns patience. The heart learns gentleness. The spirit learns freedom. Each moment of awareness builds the capacity for wise response. My dear friend, this practice is subtle, slow, and profound. It requires patience, attention, and gentleness. But over time, it transforms life. The world may speak harshly. People may insult, judge, and provoke. But when we learn to respond without reacting, we step out of the cycle of suffering. Words become like passing clouds. The mind remains clear. The heart remains soft. The spirit remains free. This is the silent power of wisdom, a quiet strength that carries through every moment, every insult, every challenge. And so, remember this. The next time someone insults you, pause. Breathe. Notice the mind, the body, the ego. Observe without attachment. Allow the feelings to rise and pass. And then, respond with calm clarity, from presence, from awareness, from the gentle wisdom that dwells in your own heart. React not, my friend, but respond. And in this, discover a freedom no words can take away. Letting go of attachment. The heart of true silence. My dear friend, today we speak about something both simple and very deep. The art of letting go. You see, much of our suffering comes from holding too tightly. Holding to our pride, holding to our image, holding to what we think we deserve, holding to the words of others, especially insults. When someone says something harsh, when the mind tells a story about injustice, we clutch onto it as though letting go would mean losing a part of ourselves. But this clinging, this attachment, is what makes the mind restless and the heart heavy. To find true silence, to remain calm in the face of insult, we must learn to let go. I remember a young monk who came to me, shoulders hunched, eyes downcast. "Master," he whispered, "I cannot stop thinking about the harsh words someone spoke to me yesterday. I replay them, and each time I feel anger and shame. I do not know how to let go." I nodded gently, placing a hand over his trembling shoulder. "Ah, dear one, see how tightly you hold. Notice the grasp. Feel it, and then breathe. Let the hand of awareness open, and allow the words to fall away, like leaves from a tree in autumn." Attachment is subtle. It is not always obvious. It may hide as indignation, as pride, as hurt feelings. We think we are protecting ourselves, defending our honor, proving our worth. But in truth, we are only chaining ourselves to the moment, feeding the fire of suffering. When insult comes, the mind says, "I cannot forget. I must remember. I must defend." And so we suffer again and again. The practice of letting go is not denial. It is not forgetting. It is seeing the impermanence of the insult, the impermanence of the moment, the impermanence of all things. I often tell my students a small exercise. When a harsh word or insult arises in memory, pause. Close your eyes, breathe, and picture the word as a stone you are holding in your hand. Notice its weight. Notice how it pulls, how it aches, and then slowly, gently, place the stone on the ground. Do not throw it. Do not crush it. Do not ignore it. Simply set it down. Feel the relief in your hand, the lightness in your chest. This is letting go, not ignoring, not suppressing, but releasing naturally, gently with awareness. Letting go also means understanding the nature of impermanence. Every insult, every harsh word, every slight is a moment that passes. Even the loudest anger, the deepest shame, the heaviest humiliation will pass, like clouds drifting across the sky. The mind may cling, yes, but we can learn to watch. We can notice the rising, the staying, and the passing. And in noticing, the grip loosens. We begin to see that clinging only prolongs suffering. Letting go, even just a little, begins to bring peace. I recall a student, a young woman, who struggled with criticism at work. Each word she perceived as a personal attack. She carried them home, replayed them in the night, and woke exhausted. I guided her through a meditation of letting go. "See the words," I said softly, "as clouds in the sky of your mind. They may be dark, they may swirl, but the sky itself remains wide, open, and untouched. Let them pass. Let go. Breathe. Do not clutch at the words or the story they create." Slowly, over days and weeks, she practiced, and the anger began to loosen, the sleep became lighter, and her heart softened. Letting go is also a practice of humility. When we release attachment, we recognize that not everything revolves around our ego, our pride, our need for validation. We see that the world may speak harshly, may judge, may misinterpret, but this is not our burden to carry alone. The ego wants to defend, to retaliate, to insist. I must be respected. But the heart that lets go does not fight the world. It does not resist. It simply remains steady, calm, and aware, holding its dignity softly, without grasping. There is a story of an elder monk who was often mocked by villagers. At first, he would feel hurt, thinking, "Why do they speak this way? Who are they to judge me?" But over time, he began to practice letting go. He observed the words, noticed the sting, and then released them into the air, like leaves carried by the wind. He did not chase them. He did not argue with them. He did not keep them in his heart. And gradually, He discovered an inner calm that no insult could disturb, a silence that was unshakable because it was not dependent on others' words. Letting go does not mean we stop caring, do not stand up for ourselves, or pretend to be indifferent. It means we do not carry the burden of attachment. When insult comes, we may notice a flicker of hurt, a tension in the body, a racing of thoughts. We see it clearly, we breathe, we soften, and then we let it go. We do not replay it endlessly. We do not build castles in our mind of grievance and shame. We allow it to pass, returning to the present moment, to the quiet of awareness, to the heart's gentle rhythm. Even in small daily moments, the practice of letting go brings peace. A rude comment in traffic, a careless word at the market, a critical glance from a neighbor, each is a chance to practice. Notice the arising sensation, observe the ego clinging, breathe deeply, and then release. The mind becomes lighter, the heart becomes softer, the spirit becomes freer. Over time, the release becomes natural, spontaneous, effortless, as though the wind simply carries away what no longer serves. I tell my students that attachment is like a heavy backpack. We walk through life, feeling the weight of every insult, every slight, every imagined offense. We complain, we struggle, we tire. But when we practice letting go, we set down the pack. Not for a moment, but perhaps for a long while. We discover the joy of movement unburdened, the ease of a light heart, the clarity of a mind unchained. And slowly, the world itself feels softer, kinder, and more spacious. Letting go is also about self-compassion. We may notice that we have clung for years, carrying old hurts and imagined slights. It is easy to judge ourselves for holding on, easy to criticize our own sensitivity. But compassion begins here, with gentle awareness, soft acceptance, and patient release. We do not force the mind. We do not fight the heart. We simply notice, breathe, and let go, again and again, until the practice becomes natural, until peace becomes a companion, until silence becomes the home of our spirit. Ah, dear friend, letting go is not a one-time act. It is a moment-to-moment choice, a gentle habit, a dance with impermanence. Words, insults, slights, judgments, they come and go. Our attachment gives them weight. Our release dissolves it. Each time we practice, even for a single moment, the heart becomes softer, the mind clearer, and the spirit steadier. The world may still be loud, chaotic, even harsh, but within, there is calm. There is silence. There is freedom. We may remember that letting go is a gift we give to ourselves, not to the world. The world may never change. People may continue to speak harshly, to misunderstand, to provoke. Yet the peace of letting go belongs to the one who practices it. Each moment of release, each gentle breath, each observation without grasping, builds an inner fortress of serenity. And here, dear one, we find the heart of true silence, freedom from the clutch of insult, freedom from the chains of ego, freedom from the endless replay of suffering. So, remember always, when harsh words come, when the mind trembles, when the ego cries out, pause. Notice, breathe, observe, and gently, softly, with awareness, let go. Release the weight you have been carrying. The mind becomes lighter, the heart softer, the spirit free. This is the path of peace, the art of true silence, and the wisdom that transforms insult into freedom. The practice is patient, the practice is gentle, the practice is yours. I recall a student, a young woman, who struggled with criticism at work. Each word she perceived as a personal attack. She carried them home, replayed them in the night, and woke exhausted. I guided her through a meditation of letting go. See the words, I said softly, as clouds in the sky of your mind. They may be dark, they may swirl, but the sky itself remains wide, open, and untouched. Let them pass. Let go. Breathe. Do not clutch at the words or the story they create. Slowly, over days and weeks, she practiced, and the anger began to loosen, the sleep became lighter, and her heart softened. Letting go is also a practice of humility. When we release attachment, we recognize that not everything revolves around our ego, our pride, our need for validation. We see that the world may speak harshly, may judge, may misinterpret, but this is not our burden to carry alone. The ego wants to defend, to retaliate, to insist, I must be respected. But the heart that lets go does not fight the world. It does not resist. It simply remains steady, calm, and aware, holding its dignity softly, without grasping. There is a story of an elder monk who was often mocked by villagers. At first, he would feel hurt, thinking, why do they speak this way? Who are they to judge me? But over time, he began to practice letting go. He observed the words, noticed the sting, and then released them into the air, like leaves carried by the wind. He did not chase them, he did not argue with them, he did not keep them in his heart. And gradually, he discovered an inner calm that no insult could disturb. A silence that was unshakable because it was not dependent on others' words. Letting go does not mean we stop caring. Do not stand up for ourselves or pretend to be indifferent. It means we do not carry the burden of attachment. When insult comes, we may notice a flicker of hurt, a tension in the body, a racing of thoughts. We see it clearly. We breathe. We soften. And then we let it go. We do not replay it endlessly. We do not build castles in our mind of grievance and shame. We allow it to pass, returning to the present moment, to the quiet of awareness, to the heart's gentle rhythm. Even in small daily moments, the practice of letting go brings peace. A rude comment in traffic, a careless word at the market, a critical glance from a neighbor, each is a chance to practice. Notice the arising sensation, observe the ego clinging, breathe deeply, and then release. The mind becomes lighter, the heart becomes softer, the spirit becomes freer. Over time, the release becomes natural, spontaneous, effortless, as though the wind simply carries away what no longer serves. I tell my students that attachment is like a heavy backpack. We walk through life, feeling the weight of every insult, every slight, every imagined offense. We complain, we struggle, we tire. But when we practice letting go, we set down the pack. Not for a moment, but perhaps for a long while. We discover the joy of movement unburdened, the ease of a light heart, the clarity of a mind unchained. And slowly, the world itself feels softer, kinder, and more spacious. Letting go is also about self-compassion. We may notice that we have clung for years, carrying old hurts and imagined slights. It is easy to judge ourselves for holding on, easy to criticize our own sensitivity. But compassion begins here, with gentle awareness, soft acceptance, and patient release. We do not force the mind. We do not fight the heart. We simply notice, breathe, and let go again and again, until the practice becomes natural, until peace becomes a companion, until silence becomes the home of our spirit. Ah, dear friend, letting go is not a one-time act. It is a moment-to-moment choice, a gentle habit, a dance with impermanence. Words, insults, slights, judgments, they come and go. Our attachment gives them weight. Our release dissolves it. Each time we practice, even for a single moment, the heart becomes softer, the mind clearer, and the spirit steadier. The world may still be loud, chaotic, even harsh, but within, there is calm. There is silence. There is freedom. We may remember that letting go is a gift we give to ourselves, not to the world. The world may never change, People may continue to speak harshly, to misunderstand, to provoke. Yet the peace of letting go belongs to the one who practices it. Each moment of release, each gentle breath, each observation without grasping, builds an inner fortress of serenity. And here, dear one, we find the heart of true silence. Freedom from the clutch of insult, freedom from the chains of ego, freedom from the endless replay of suffering. So, remember always, when harsh words come, when the mind trembles, when the ego cries out, pause. Notice, breathe, observe, and gently, softly, with awareness, let go. Release the weight you have been carrying. The mind becomes lighter, the heart softer, the spirit free. This is the path of peace, the art of true silence, and the wisdom that transforms insult into freedom. The practice is patient, the practice is gentle, the practice is yours. Cultivating inner calm, anchoring yourself in stillness. Ah, my dear friend, today we explore a place within each of us, a quiet refuge that exists even when the world is loud, even when words wound, even when insult tries to stir the mind into chaos. This place is inner calm, the stillness that anchors us, the gentle heartbeat of awareness that remains steady even in storms. Many people look for calm in the world, quiet streets, kind words, peaceful surroundings, but true calm is not outside. It is within, waiting patiently, like a hidden spring beneath a rocky mountain, waiting for us to notice, to drink, to rest in its gentle presence. I remember a young monk, restless and anxious, always reacting to what others said, always carried away by insults, criticism, or gossip. He came to me one day, eyes wide, breathing shallow. "Master, how can I find calm when the world keeps shouting at me?" I smiled, for I had walked this path myself many times. "Ah," I said gently, "the world will always speak, but the stillness does not lie in the world. It lies in the space between your thoughts, in the pause between your breaths. Learn to anchor yourself there, and no insult, no harsh word, no judgment can pull you away." Cultivating inner calm begins with awareness of the body. Feel your breath. Do not try to control it at first, just notice it. Notice how the chest rises, how the belly softens, how the air enters and leaves without effort. Often, we ignore this simple rhythm, yet it is the thread that ties us to presence. When insult arises, notice how the body reacts. The tightening of the shoulders, the clenching of the jaw, the fluttering in the stomach. This is the mind's alarm, the ego's cry. But awareness softens it. Awareness anchors it. Awareness becomes the calm observer in the center of the storm. Once, I guided a student through a simple exercise. He was disturbed by harsh words he had heard earlier. "Close your eyes," I said. "Notice the body. Let your spine be tall but relaxed. Feel your feet on the ground. Feel the hands resting gently on your lap. Now, follow the breath. Each inhale brings attention to the present. Each exhale releases tension. Let the body settle. Let the mind settle. Let the heart settle." Slowly, over minutes, his face softened, shoulders loosened, and a small smile appeared. The calm had arrived, not outside but within. Inner calm is also about observing the mind's chatter. Thoughts arise, opinions form, stories are told about what was said, what was meant, what might happen. Do not fight them, do not push them away, do not feed them. Simply notice. Observe them as clouds passing in the vast sky of awareness. Some clouds are dark, heavy with anger. Some are light, fleeting, and some drift slowly, almost unnoticed. By observing without clinging, the mind learns patience, and calm becomes natural, effortless. I often remind my students that calm is not a state of numbness or indifference. It is not pretending nothing matters. Rather, it is a grounded awareness that allows us to act with clarity. When insult or provocation comes, the calm mind does not lash out. It does not argue. It does not cling to hurt. It sees clearly what is happening and responds in a way that preserves dignity, compassion, and peace. Calm is the quiet center from which wisdom flows, from which thoughtful response arises, from which the heart remains soft and spacious. In practice, cultivating calm also involves small daily moments. When walking, notice the sensation of the feet touching the ground. When washing dishes, feel the water. Notice the movement of hands, the sound of running water. When listening to someone speak, give full attention without planning your reply. These small acts anchor the mind in presence. Each act is a seed of calm, growing slowly, subtly, until the mind is steady and the heart is light. I remember a story of a student troubled by gossip. Every rumor, every word about him disturbed his mind. "Master, I cannot stop thinking about what others say. My heart is restless," he said. I told him, "Imagine your mind as a pond. Each word, each rumor is a leaf falling on the surface. Watch it fall. Watch it float. Watch it sink. Do not stir the water. Do not try to remove it. Simply observe. In this observing, the water becomes still, and the reflection of the sky returns." Over time, he practiced this, and slowly, his mind became like that still pond, reflecting life without disturbance. Anchoring oneself in stillness is also connected to letting go of attachment. When we hold tightly to outcomes, to the approval of others, to pride or reputation, the mind becomes restless. Calmness cannot coexist with grasping. We practice releasing. We observe what arises. We breathe. We soften, and the stillness within becomes our home. Words, insults, judgments, mistakes, all move through the mind without disturbing the essence. There is no need to create silence outside, to chase quiet surroundings, to avoid life. The practice of inner calm allows you to be in a crowded market, on a busy street, in a noisy home, and still remain steady, unshaken, anchored in presence. The outer world may clamor, but the inner world can remain a soft, gentle harbor, where the heart breathes easily, the mind observes clearly, and the spirit rests deeply. I once guided a young monk who was constantly anxious about others' opinions. Every word, every glance, every whisper seemed an attack. We practiced together daily, noticing breath, observing thoughts, and gently returning to presence. Slowly, his reaction softened. Slowly, his heart opened. Slowly, he discovered that calm was not granted by others, not given by the world, but discovered within. And in that calm, the world no longer held power over him. Anchoring oneself in stillness also allows compassion to grow. When the mind is calm, the heart is soft, and we can see the pain and fear in others without being disturbed by their words. Insults become clouds, not storms. Criticism becomes noise, not chains. The practice of calm allows us to respond with gentleness, understanding, and patience without losing our own center. Calm does not mean weak. Calm means grounded, strong, and free. Dear friend, cultivating inner calm is a lifelong journey. It begins with noticing, with small moments of presence, with observing the breath, the body, and the mind. It grows with patience, with daily practice, with gentle attention to what arises. It deepens when we face life's challenges, the harsh words, the impatience, the provocation, with awareness rather than reflex. Over time, calm becomes natural, a companion, a home we carry within, untouched by outer turbulence. Even in moments of anger, even when insult pierces the heart, Even when fear and hurt arise, the practice of anchoring in stillness allows the mind to pause, the heart to soften, and the spirit to remain steady. Each breath is a reminder, each moment of observation a step toward mastery. And gradually, the world no longer dictates our peace. We become the master of our mind, the guardian of our heart, the keeper of our inner sanctuary. The practice of inner calm is also a gift to others. When we respond from stillness, we do not escalate conflict. We do not create more suffering. We offer a presence that is gentle, soothing, and stabilizing. In the presence of calm, even harsh words lose their sting. Even anger softens. Even chaos finds a pause. Our calm becomes contagious, a quiet light in the storm, a reflection of the peace we have cultivated within. And so, my dear friend, remember this always. Cultivate your inner calm. Notice your breath, feel your body, observe your mind, anchor yourself in presence. Let the world speak, let the insults come, let the chaos swirl. Stand rooted in stillness. Be like the mountain that feels the wind but does not sway, like the lake that reflects the sky even when clouds pass. In this stillness, find freedom. In this calm, find wisdom. In this anchored heart, find the true home of your spirit. Observing without judgment, the art of mindful silence. Ah, my dear friend, today we speak of a subtle, yet powerful practice, the art of observing without judgment. You see, life will offer many moments that test us. Words that sting, actions that confuse, situations that shake the heart. When insult arises, the mind rushes forward, spinning stories, adding layers of interpretation, and passing harsh judgment on self and others. But there is a gentle way to meet these moments, a way that does not inflame, a way that does not cling, a way that allows the heart to remain soft and spacious. This is the art of mindful observation without judgment. I recall a young monk who was troubled by gossip in the village. He would come to me, shoulders tight, eyes wide, heart racing. "Master," he said, "people speak ill of me. Their words wound me. I cannot stop thinking about them. I judge them. I judge myself, and I feel trapped." I nodded softly, placing a hand on his shoulder. "Ah, dear one, you are trying to hold a river in your hands. Let it flow. Observe. Breathe. Do not add your story to the moment. Do not say, 'This is wrong,' or 'This should not be.' Simply watch. Simply notice. See it as it is, and the mind will find ease. Observation without judgment begins with awareness. Notice what arises in your mind when insult touches you. Observe the thought, the emotion, the tension in the body. Do not fight it. Do not push it away. Do not label it as good or bad. It is simply a sensation, a passing cloud in the sky of awareness. When we allow things to be just as they are, without judgment, we create a space where peace can arise naturally, unforced without struggle. I often tell my students to imagine the mind as a calm lake. Each judgment, each harsh word, each insult is like a stone tossed into the water. If we grasp, if we react, if we cling, the ripples spread and the lake becomes turbulent. But if we observe without judgment, the stone sinks, the ripples fade, and the water returns to stillness. We are not controlling the stone. We are not resisting the waves. We are simply watching, allowing, letting go. There is a story of a monk who faced harsh criticism from his peers. At first, he was defensive, angry, and hurt. I told him, "Notice what arises when you hear these words. See the feelings, see the thoughts, see the body's reaction. But do not judge them. Do not add your story. Do not cling to what should or should not be. Observe with gentle attention, and you will find a calm that nothing can disturb. Over time, he practiced, and gradually, his responses became gentle, measured, and free of unnecessary suffering. Observing without judgment also teaches compassion. When we witness our own mind without adding criticism, we learn to be gentle with ourselves. We see the pain, the fear, the sensitivity within, and respond with kindness instead of harshness. This inner compassion naturally extends outward. When insult comes from others, we may still feel a flicker of hurt, yet we do not react with anger or defense. We observe their words, their actions, their intentions, and the ripples of conflict diminish. The practice is subtle and requires patience. At first, the mind may resist, labeling every thought, every emotion, every insult. This is wrong, it says. I must respond, it says. I cannot allow this, it cries. But with gentle, repeated practice, awareness deepens. We begin to notice the difference between experience and judgment, between sensation and story. The mind begins to rest in a quiet space, the heart softens, and the spirit grows steady. I recall guiding a student through a simple exercise. He felt insulted by a careless remark. Close your eyes, I said. Feel the body. Notice the tightness in your chest, the clenching of your jaw. Now, observe the thought that arises. Label it gently. Thinking, feeling, reacting. But do not say this is bad. Do not argue with it. Simply watch. Let it exist and pass like clouds in the sky. Slowly, he learned to see that the insult was not a prison, but a passing moment, and his response became lighter, calmer, freer. Observation without judgment is also a practice of humility. It teaches us that the world does not revolve around our expectations, our pride, or our sense of fairness. Words may wound, actions may provoke, but we need not be dragged into the swirl of reactivity. By observing without judgment, we anchor ourselves in presence, in awareness, in a gentle calm that is unshakable by the storms of life. This practice can be applied to every moment. When someone speaks harshly, when situations seem unfair, when our own mind creates stories that torment us, we pause. We notice. We observe. We allow it to be without adding judgment, without clinging, without spinning a tale. Each moment becomes an opportunity to return to presence, to let the mind rest, to let the heart breathe. Even the smallest acts of observation without judgment ripple into daily life. Watching the clouds, noticing the sensations of walking, feeling the warmth of sunlight on the skin, hearing the laughter of children without labeling it, seeing others without adding story. Each moment strengthens the practice. The mind becomes less reactive, the heart less rigid, the spirit more free. Ah, my dear friend, the art of mindful silence, of observing without judgment, is not about becoming detached or indifferent. It is about being fully present, fully aware, fully alive, without the chains of opinion, without the weight of reactive stories. The insult that once would have consumed hours of thought now drifts by, observed but not held, noticed but not acted upon, felt but not clung to. This is the freedom of true silence. Over time, the practice transforms not only our response to insult, but our entire life. We see clearly, without distortion. We act with wisdom, not reflex. We feel with depth, not reactivity. And slowly, the heart opens, the mind settles, and the spirit rests in the gentle flow of life, unshaken by passing words, unburdened by judgment, anchored in the eternal present. Observation without judgment is a lifelong practice, a patient cultivation, a gentle dance with the nature of reality. Each insult, each criticism, each challenge becomes a teacher. Each thought, each feeling, Each body sensation becomes a signpost pointing us back to awareness. And gradually, as we observe without judgment, the mind becomes clear, the heart becomes soft, and the spirit walks freely, untouched by the storms of the world, anchored in the calm, luminous silence within. Ah, my dear one, remember always, when words wound, when thoughts swirl, when emotions rise, pause. Observe, notice, breathe. Do not judge. Allow the moment to exist. Let it pass, and return to the gentle stillness that is your true home. In this practice, you find freedom, you find peace, you find the art of mindful silence that no insult can disturb, no judgment can bind, and no moment can take away. Responding with wisdom, speaking only when necessary. Ah, my dear friend, today we speak about words and the weight they carry, especially when insult finds its way to us. You see, words are like seeds. Some grow into flowers, some grow into weeds, and some never take root at all. When someone speaks harshly, when their words wound, our first instinct is often to speak back, to defend, to argue, to explain ourselves. But consider for a moment, how often does reaction bring peace, and how often does it stir a storm? In the quiet art of wisdom, we learn to respond only when necessary, to speak with awareness, to let the voice of the heart guide the tongue rather than the clamor of hurt or pride. I remember a student once came to me, eyes red from arguing with a neighbor. "Master," he said, "I could not hold my tongue. I shouted, I explained, I argued, and still, the insult lingers in my heart." I smiled softly and told him, "Ah, my child, words have power, yes, but they are not always needed. There is wisdom in silence. For sometimes, the world teaches you gently only when you do not interfere with it. Observe, wait, let the mind settle. Speak only when your words can heal, not wound. Responding with wisdom begins with patience. It is the pause between the insult and our reply, the space where anger might rise, but we do not let it rush forward. In that pause, we breathe, we notice our sensations, and we consider what will serve the situation best. Often, the wisest response is no response, simply allowing the energy to pass, allowing the words to float by without lodging in the heart. Like a leaf drifting on a river, the insult may touch us lightly, but it need not anchor itself. In my years of guiding others, I have seen that speaking only when necessary prevents many unnecessary battles. When we respond immediately, we often speak from the raw edge of emotion. The words are sharp, the tone harsh, and though we might feel justified, we often sow seeds of regret. But when we pause, breathe, and let awareness guide our words, we speak from clarity, from understanding, from a grounded place within. The heart is calm, the mind is steady, and the words carry the weight of wisdom rather than the heat of anger. There is a story of a merchant who was insulted publicly by a competitor. At first, he was furious, ready to defend his honor. He came to me, seeking guidance. "Master, how do I respond? I cannot let this pass." I told him, "Wait, sit quietly, listen to the insult as if it were rain falling on your hand. Feel it, yes, but do not react yet. Observe what arises in your mind. When your heart is still, speak if you must, but let your words be like water, gentle and clear, not fire that burns and spreads." He followed this guidance, and when he finally spoke, his words were measured, calm, and they shifted the situation with ease, without conflict. Speaking only when necessary also cultivates discernment. We learn to recognize which battles are ours, which words are worth our energy, and which moments are better left unspoken. Not every insult demands response. Not every slight requires explanation. In fact, many insults are reflections of the other person's own suffering, their own confusion, their own fears. To respond blindly is to enter into their storm. To respond wisely is to remain rooted in our own clarity. Even when we do speak, the tone matters as much as the content. Words spoken with calm, with awareness, with a gentle intention, carry a different energy than words shouted or flung in haste. When the heart is settled, the tongue can express truth without harm. A quiet word, a gentle correction, a calm explanation. These can transform tension into understanding. This is the practice of speaking with wisdom, speaking only when necessary, and allowing silence to carry the unspoken weight when words are not yet ripe. I recall guiding a young woman who struggled to face constant criticism at work. She would react quickly, her words sharp, her heart tense. "Master, how can I remain calm? They push me every day, and I feel trapped." I said, "Observe the moment. Notice the rush to speak. Allow the pause. Consider if your words will heal or inflame. Speak only if they will bring clarity, not only relief to your ego." Over weeks, she practiced this patiently. At first, silence felt like surrender, but gradually, it became a shield and a tool. People began to listen differently, conversations shifted, and she discovered power in restraint. Responding with wisdom requires self-awareness. We must know our triggers, our vulnerabilities, our habitual patterns of speech. When insult arises, the mind often leaps into old habits: defense, justification, retaliation. But awareness allows us to step back. We see the pattern, we see the arising emotion, and we choose a response that reflects our higher understanding rather than our knee-jerk impulses. This is not weakness. It is strength grounded in clarity. The practice of speaking only when necessary is also deeply connected to compassion. Sometimes, the silence itself communicates care, patience, and understanding more than words ever could. It tells the other person, "I hear you, I see you, yet I will not be dragged into the storm of reactivity." Silence, observed with awareness, can be a profound teacher, a space where both hearts can breathe, and where understanding may grow quietly, gently. My dear friend, consider this. Life is full of voices, many harsh, many distracting. To meet them with wisdom is to cultivate the garden within, where words are not weeds that choke, but seeds that flower. Each insult, each harsh remark, each challenge is an opportunity to practice discernment, patience, and the gentle art of measured speech. Speak when necessary, yes, but more often, let the silence speak for you, and let the mind rest in its clarity. Even the smallest moments offer practice. A fleeting comment on the street, a careless word from a loved one, a criticism from a stranger. All these are opportunities to pause, breathe, observe, and respond with awareness. The heart remains soft, the mind remains clear, and the spirit moves freely, unburdened by the constant pull of reaction. Slowly, the art of responding wisely becomes second nature, a quiet strength that others sense, even if they do not see it. In time, this practice transforms more than conversation. It transforms our presence in the world. People respond not only to what we say, but to the calm, measured, wise energy we carry. The mind that reacts impulsively is turbulent and exhausting. The mind that responds with awareness is steady and illuminating. The heart that rushes to speak is heavy. The heart that knows when to speak and when to rest is light. Speaking only when necessary is not about suppression or avoidance. It is about alignment with truth, compassion, and presence. It is about letting the moment breathe, letting the other person breathe, letting the self breathe. It is about holding space for clarity to arise naturally, without forcing it, without pushing, without clinging. And in this practice, even the sharpest insult loses its sting, for the mind is anchored in wisdom, and the heart is anchored in calm. Ah, my dear one, remember always, words have power, but so does silence. Pause, observe, choose. Speak only when your words carry clarity, when your heart is steady, when your intent is gentle. Let silence hold the unspoken weight, and let speech flow like water, clear, calm, nourishing, and wise. In this way, life's insults become lessons, life's conflicts become teachers, and the mind and heart move together in the art of gentle, mindful response, free from unnecessary suffering and full of quiet strength, embracing inner peace amid conflict. Ah, my dear friend, today we sit together and speak of a very quiet, very gentle truth. How to hold peace in your heart even when the world feels harsh, when insults come like cold wind on bare skin. You see, peace is not something we find outside, not in the words of others, not in the absence of challenge, not in waiting for life to be gentle. No, peace is a flame we nurture from within, a quiet garden we tend, even as storms rage around us. When someone insults you, it is easy to feel that the world has become your enemy. It is easy to let anger, hurt, and confusion take root. But in the practice of inner peace, we learn to sit quietly in the storm, to feel the wind, but not let it sway the tree within us. I remember a young man who came to me, carrying the weight of harsh words spoken by a colleague. His shoulders were tense, his eyes tired. "Master," he said, "I cannot stop thinking about what they said. Every word feels like a stone in my chest. How do I let it go?" I looked at him and said, "Ah, my child, it is not the words themselves that bind you. It is your mind grasping onto them, letting them linger, letting them define your heart. The stone is not theirs. It is the one you carry. Let us set it down together." Inner peace begins with noticing. It is not about pretending the insult did not happen, nor about forcing yourself to smile when your heart is burning. It is about being present with the feeling, letting it exist without judgment. Feel the sting, yes, but do not clutch it tightly. Feel the rush of heat, but do not follow it blindly into reaction. In this pause, in this gentle observation, the mind begins to soften, and the heart finds a small space to breathe. There was a woman, I recall, who faced constant criticism from her family. Every day, words meant to wound arrived like arrows. She wanted to shout, to defend, to flee. But each time she came to me, I asked her to close her eyes and breathe, to imagine her heart as a calm pond. "Let the words fall like leaves on the water," I said. "Some float, some sink, some drift away. Observe them, do not fight them, do not swallow them. Let the pond remain still." Over time, she discovered a strange freedom. The insults no longer had the same weight, and her presence became calm, even amidst chaos. To embrace peace amid conflict is to understand impermanence. Every insult, every harsh word is a wave. It rises, it moves, and it fades. If we hold tightly to it, we are tossed by the wave, pulled under, drenched in anger and pain. But if we allow it to pass, if we breathe and watch, we remain anchored, steady, untouched by the surface turbulence. Life will always bring wind and waves, but the mind that practices inner calm is like a rock in the river. Water flows around it, but it remains firm. Even more, embracing inner peace requires compassion for ourselves and for the one who insults. Often, hurtful words are born from fear, from suffering, from misunderstanding. To react with anger is to join the suffering of another. To respond with awareness, with a gentle mind, is to maintain clarity. to not add fuel to the fire. Compassion does not excuse harm, but it softens the edges. It allows us to act from a place of steadiness rather than reactivity. I remember teaching a student about the nature of conflict. When someone lashes out, I said, do not take it as a reflection of you. See it as a cloud passing through the sky of their mind. It may be dark, heavy, unpleasant, but it does not touch the sky itself. Your heart is the sky. Let the cloud move through and remain vast, calm, open. This simple image helped the student to take a step back, to breathe, and to find moments of calm even when surrounded by agitation. The practice of peace is also about rhythm. The rhythm of breath, the rhythm of attention, the rhythm of noticing and releasing. Each insult is a note in life's music, sometimes discordant, sometimes sharp, sometimes unpleasant. If we respond with tension, we become part of the discord. If we respond with awareness, with a soft, open heart, we begin to find the melody in even harsh moments. Life is never perfectly quiet, but the mind that practices inner peace can find the song beneath the noise. Sometimes, peace is found in small actions. A gentle word to oneself, a mindful breath, a walk in silence, a soft gaze on the world. These are not grand, not flashy, but they build a foundation strong enough to hold the heart steady even when others seek to shake it. You may not control the words spoken to you, but you can control the response, the choice to remain anchored, the choice to let peace reside in the center of your being. I once guided a young monk who struggled with a difficult teacher. Each day, criticism and harsh commands felt unbearable. "Master," he said, "I want to fight back, but I know I will regret it." I told him, "Observe the breath, notice the irritation, and let it pass. Imagine a river flowing through you, carrying away the sharp stones of words. Do not clutch them, do not throw them back. Let the river move, and your heart will float freely." He practiced this with diligence, and in time, he discovered that even the harshest words could not disturb the calm he cultivated within. Peace is not passive. It is not ignoring reality or pretending everything is fine. Peace is a choice, repeated moment by moment. It is the choice to breathe, to observe, to respond from clarity rather than reaction. It is a practice that strengthens with patience, that grows with consistency, that shields the heart without closing it. In embracing peace, we also embrace humility. We acknowledge that the world is not always just, that people are not always kind, and that our own minds are imperfect. Yet, in this humility, we find freedom. The world may insult, criticize, or challenge, but our response is ours alone. The mind that knows this can rest, even as the wind blows fiercely. Peace, dear one, is a companion, not a reward. It does not arrive only when life is easy. It comes when we practice presence, when we release attachment to being right, when we cultivate awareness of our inner state. It blooms quietly in the heart, and in its quietness, it holds immense strength. Even amidst constant insult or provocation, the heart that practices peace can soften without being broken, can remain open without being vulnerable to chaos, can respond without reacting. Each moment of calm is a seed that grows, a small victory of awareness, a gentle triumph of the spirit. My child, remember, life will bring turbulence, people will speak harshly, and situations will test your patience. Yet, peace is always possible. Breathe, notice, and anchor in the stillness within. Let the storm pass through. Let the words fall like rain, and hold your heart like a calm pond. In this practice, the world may not change, but you will move through it with clarity, gentleness, and the profound strength that comes from true inner peace. Letting go of ego in moments of insult. My dear friend, today we speak about the ego, that little voice inside that insists, I must be right, I must be respected, I must defend myself. You see, when someone insults us, it is often the ego that rises first, the ego that tightens the chest, clenches the fists, and whispers, do not let this pass, fight back, show them your worth. But the true path of peace, the gentle way of the heart, teaches us that the ego is like a shadow in the sunlight. It seems real, it feels strong, but it has no substance. I remember a young monk, full of fire, who came to me after a harsh confrontation with his peers. His words were sharp, his eyes bright with indignation. Master, he said, I cannot let them disrespect me. I must respond. I must defend myself. I looked at him and smiled softly and said, but who is it that truly feels disrespected? The one they insulted, or the one clinging to the idea of being insulted? He frowned, puzzled. I continued, the ego believes it is under attack, but the self that is aware, that watches without clinging, is untouched. Let us explore this together. The ego is very clever. It tells us that insults are personal, that every word is a mirror of our value, that silence is weakness. But this is a trap. When we respond from ego, we enter a cycle of reaction, a cycle that grows more bitter with each turn. Each insult becomes a seed, and the mind waters it with anger, with pride, with woundedness, until it grows into a forest of suffering. Yet, if we learn to pause, to recognize the voice of the ego without obeying it, the seed never germinates, the forest remains unplanted. I often tell my students to imagine the ego as a little child, crying for attention, fearing that if it is ignored, it will disappear. When someone insults you, the ego cries out, see me. See that I am hurt. See that I am wronged. But the wise heart responds not with words, not with defense, but with gentle awareness. I see you, little one, it says. But I am not you. I am calm. I am present. I am free. In that moment, the ego's power fades, for it only exists when fed by our identification. There is a story of a man who was constantly belittled by his neighbors. Every insult felt like a knife. Every mockery pierced his pride. One day, he came to me, his shoulders heavy, his eyes full of hurt. Master, he said, I am drowning in humiliation. How do I stop it? I told him, imagine that each insult is a leaf falling on a river. Do not cling to it. Do not try to catch it. Watch it float by. Do not identify with the leaf. It is not yours to carry. You are the river. Flow without interruption. He practiced this, and slowly, he discovered that insults lost their sting when he did not take them as a reflection of self. Letting go of ego is also about understanding impermanence. The truth that all things, including insults, are temporary. A word spoken today may be remembered tomorrow, or it may fade into nothing. We give it power by clinging. When we release attachment, when we let the ego rest, the words lose their hold. We remain untouched, like a vast sky beneath passing clouds. Sometimes, the practice is subtle. The ego whispers long after the insult has passed. It repeats the phrases, it builds stories, it twists meaning. This is the mind holding on, trying to assert its narrative. But if we return again and again to the body, to the breath, to the simple awareness of being, the ego gradually softens. It is not destroyed, not punished, but gently recognized for what it is. A thought, a habit, a fleeting shadow. I recall a young woman who struggled with constant criticism at work. Every remark felt like a judgment against her being. She wanted to fight, to argue, to make herself right. but I guided her to notice her reactions. Feel the surge of anger, I said, but do not follow it. Observe it, name it, then breathe. Each time you resist the pull of ego, you reclaim your calm. She practiced this daily, and in time, she found freedom. The insults continued, but they no longer controlled her heart. She could walk through her day with a lightness she had never known. Letting go of ego is not weakness. It is the quiet strength that does not need to shout, that does not need to prove itself, that rests in its own awareness. The ego seeks validation through conflict. The heart that sees beyond ego rests in simplicity. In this simplicity, there is clarity, there is power, there is peace. Even more, letting go of ego opens the door to compassion. When we are not entangled in self-protection, we can see the other person clearly. We can feel their suffering without being consumed by it. Insults become a window into the pain of another, not a weapon against us. This is not to excuse harm, but to free ourselves from its control. Compassion blooms naturally when ego recedes. I often teach that life is like a mirror. The ego looks into it and sees flaws, slights, and offenses. But the self that practices awareness sees reflection, not reality. It sees the impermanence of all things, the fluidity of words, the smallness of insult in the vastness of being. When insult comes, respond with the stillness of the mirror, reflecting nothing, accepting all, and remaining untouched. The practice is ongoing. Ego is subtle, persistent, and clever. It returns when we are tired, when we are distracted, when we feel justified. Yet each time we notice it, each time we refrain from reacting, each time we anchor in awareness, we weaken its grip. Over time, the heart learns a quiet resilience, a gentle strength that does not need recognition, that does not need to prove itself, that rests in the simple joy of being. My friend, remember, the world will always present challenges, and insults will come in many forms. But if you learn to step back, to observe the ego without identification, to let it pass like clouds in the sky, you will discover a freedom beyond words, a calm beyond understanding, a peace that no insult can touch. The heart that lets go of ego does not react to every disturbance, does not clutch every slight, does not build walls or weapons. It breathes, it observes, it moves like water, flexible, gentle, strong, and enduring. In this way, insults no longer define you. They may rise and fall, but the calm within remains steadfast. Yes, the path is gentle, the path is subtle, but the rewards are profound. Freedom, clarity, peace, and the strength of a heart that knows itself beyond the reach of ego. Let us walk this path together, noticing, breathing, letting go, and discovering the boundless calm that lies always within, untouched by insult, undisturbed by anger, and luminous with quiet understanding. Practicing mindful silence in the face of harsh words. My dear friend, let us sit together a while and speak quietly about the art of silence, the gentle refuge of the heart, especially when harsh words fall upon us like sudden rain. You see, it is very natural to feel the heat of anger, the sharp sting of insult, the flutter of pride that demands a response. Yet in the quiet pause, in the mindful stillness, there is a power far greater than any spoken word, a calm that no insult can pierce. I remember once a young monk who came to me, tears in his eyes, his chest tight with frustration. "Master," he said, "I cannot bear it. Every time someone mocks me, I want to shout, to defend, to show them they are wrong. How can I remain silent?" I smiled gently and said, My child, silence is not absence. Silence is presence. It is a deep listening, a gentle awareness, a strength that speaks without voice. He looked puzzled, as though silence were a stranger he had never met. You see, silence is a practice. It is not merely closing the lips, nor holding back words out of fear. True silence is mindful, aware, awake. It notices the rise of irritation. It sees the quick surge of ego. It feels the pressure to respond. And yet, it does not act. It allows the words, the insults, to wash over it like water over stones in a stream, flowing, gentle, undisturbed. There was a woman who worked in a busy marketplace, constantly criticized and ridiculed by her colleagues. She would arrive home exhausted, heart heavy with the weight of their words. One day, I told her, imagine your mind as a vast sky. Words are clouds that pass by, sometimes dark, sometimes light, sometimes heavy with rain. Do not chase them. Do not cling to them. Let them float. Remain the sky. She began to practice this, first for a few minutes each day, then gradually throughout her interactions. Slowly, she discovered that the sting of words weakened, that silence carried her more power than any argument ever could. Mindful silence is also the art of breathing. When insult comes, the breath is a bridge between the storm of the mind and the calm of the heart. A slow inhalation, a gentle exhalation, an attentive noticing of the body and its sensations. This is the anchor. The anger may rise, the ego may demand action, but the breath offers a pause, a moment of choice. Will you respond, or will you remain rooted in the quiet strength of your awareness? And the world often misunderstands silence. They may see it as weakness, as passivity, as surrender. But in truth, silence is the deepest form of strength. It is the mind that is unshaken by the tempest of insult, the heart that does not burn with the fire of retribution, the spirit that is untouched by the smallness of words. Silence is a presence, a clarity, a wisdom that speaks in its own quiet way. I recall a man who was ridiculed in a gathering of peers. He felt the sharp edge of every jest, the mocking weight of every glance. His first instinct was to defend, to strike back with words sharper than theirs. But he remembered the practice of mindful silence. He breathed. He felt the flutter of anger, the trembling of pride. And then he simply let the words pass. In that stillness, he realized something profound. The insult had power only because he had fed it with reaction. By not reacting, he reclaimed his peace. Silence is also a mirror, reflecting not the words of others, but the truth within. When we pause, when we refrain from responding, we see the patterns of the mind, the clinging, the fear, the smallness that the ego insists upon. And we see them without judgment, without shame, without the need to force change. Awareness itself is the practice, and in it, the heart expands, softens, and opens. Sometimes, silence can feel like a lonely path. The mind whispers, "Why do you endure? Why do you let them speak over you? Why do you not fight back?" But remember, my friend, the path of mindful silence is not about enduring in weakness. It is about cultivating an inner garden where anger, pride, and reaction do not take root. It is about creating a space within yourself that remains untouched by the turbulence of others. In this practice, we learn patience, not as a burden, but as a gift. The patient heart does not rush to respond, does not cling to being right, does not insist on being heard. It allows time for clarity to emerge, for understanding to deepen, for perspective to grow. The words that once felt heavy and painful now dissolve, like mist in the morning sun. And silence is contagious in its own subtle way. When we remain calm, when we do not react to provocation, others may find their anger softening. Not because we have argued them into peace, not because we have silenced them by force, but because the presence of a quiet, steady heart can reflect a way of being that invites gentleness. Even more, mindful silence connects us to the moment. When insult arrives, the mind often rushes into past wounds or future fears. It rehearses responses, imagines revenge, clings to resentment. Silence asks us to return again and again to the here and now. The words are here, the feelings are here, the breath is here. And in this presence, there is freedom. I have guided many students to sit with their discomfort, to watch the pulse of anger, the tightening of the body, the quickening of the mind. Do not push it away, I say. Do not suppress it. See it. Name it. Allow it to exist without feeding it. And breathe. Slowly, gently. Observe how it changes. With practice, the sharpness dulls, the heat cools, the mind softens, and silence becomes a sanctuary. My friend, remember this. Words can wound, words can provoke, words can stir the deepest parts of the heart. But when we meet them with mindful silence, we claim a space of freedom that no insult can enter. The heart that rests in awareness is never small, never weak, never diminished. It is vast, open, and serene, holding both the world and oneself with gentle care. Silence is not absence. It is the presence of the mind, the calm of the heart, the awareness of being. It allows us to respond with clarity when action is truly needed, not with the blind force of ego, but with the wisdom of a steady, observing heart. Even when others shout, criticize, or belittle, the silent heart does not shrink. It breathes, it flows, it remains gentle and unbroken. And in this way, my friend, the path of mindful silence transforms not only the moment of insult, but the entirety of the self into a being that is calm, resilient, and full of quiet understanding, untouched by anger, unmoved by words, and luminous in its simple presence. Transforming anger into compassion through silence. My dear friend, let us sit a while and speak quietly about anger. That restless flame that rises so quickly in the heart, that fire which burns before we even notice it. Many think that anger must be fought or suppressed, but in truth, it is like a river. If we resist it, it overflows, but if we learn to flow with it, we can carry it gently, redirect it, and see its reflection clearly. Anger, when approached mindfully, can become a doorway to compassion. I remember once a young man who came to me, his eyes full of frustration. "Master," he said, "I am consumed by anger. My friends hurt me, my work frustrates me, my life is full of injustices, and I cannot stop feeling this fire inside me. I try to let go, but it keeps returning, stronger each time." I looked at him with calm eyes and said, "Anger is not your enemy, child. It is a visitor, a teacher, a mirror. See it, feel it, listen to it, but do not let it speak through your hands or your words in haste." He looked puzzled, as though I had asked him to hold fire in his bare hands. "But Master, if I do not respond, I will be walked over. I will be humiliated. I will be weak," he protested. I smiled softly and said, "My young friend, there is strength in stillness. When you transform anger, you are not being weak. You are learning to hold the river gently in your palms, letting it flow, guiding it into understanding, not into destruction. You see, anger arises because of attachment, because of expectation, because of desire for the world to bend to our will. When reality does not conform, the mind protests. It burns, it shouts, it tightens the chest and reddens the face. And in that moment, the breath is our anchor. Mindful silence, the simple act of pausing, breathing, and observing, can create the space between the rise of anger and our reaction. In that space, compassion can be born. I remember a woman in a village who felt constant frustration at her husband's carelessness. She would shout, scold, and feel her anger rise like a storm each day. One evening, I told her, "When anger rises, do not fight it. Sit with it. Feel it in your chest. Watch it as you would watch smoke curling from a fire. And breathe. Slowly, gently. Notice it without judgment. And then, see what lies beneath it." She began to practice this daily, first for a few minutes, then for longer. Over time, she discovered that beneath the sharpness of anger, there was a yearning for understanding, a wish for harmony, a tender care that was waiting to be recognized. Compassion is born not by ignoring anger, but by understanding it. It is like noticing the thorn that pricks the hand, and instead of lashing out, learning why it is there, how it came, and what care can ease the pain. When you breathe through anger, you begin to see the person who caused it, not as an enemy, but as another human, suffering in their own way, guided by their own fears and habits. This shift is subtle, yet powerful. It does not justify wrongdoing, but it softens the heart, allowing empathy to grow where bitterness once resided. And transforming anger is not instant. It is not a sudden magic. It is a patient journey, a gentle turning of the gaze inward, again and again, noticing the sparks, observing the flames, and redirecting the heat into warmth, into care, into understanding. There will be moments of failure, moments when the old reflexes rush forth like wild horses, when words escape before the mind catches them, when the chest tightens and the mind races. In those moments, we return to the breath. We return to mindful silence. And we try again. I remember a young monk who could not forgive a friend who had betrayed him. Each day, anger filled him, shaking his peace. I told him, "Feel your anger fully. Do not run from it. Do not hide it. And then, imagine the person who hurt you, not as a monster, but as someone acting out of their own suffering. Can you meet them with understanding, not punishment?" At first, he shook his head. "No, master, I cannot." But slowly, with practice, with quiet reflection, he began to see the cracks in the other's actions, the fears, the pain that led to harm. Compassion quietly emerged, a soft light in the dark room of his heart. Compassion born from anger is deep, because it is grounded in reality, not in idealism. It is not forced, it is not sentimental, it is a recognition of the truth, that we all act from our own struggles, that each hurt we experience is entangled with the hurt others carry. When we transform anger through mindful silence, we step into a wider perspective. We see clearly, we feel deeply, and we act wisely rather than blindly reacting. This transformation is also a gift to ourselves. Anger burns the heart like fire burns wood. It leaves scars, emptiness, and exhaustion. By observing it, understanding it, and letting it flow into compassion, we free ourselves from the continual burn. We become gentle, not soft. We become strong, not rigid. We become present, not lost in the echo of past grievances or future imaginings. And the beauty is that this practice spreads naturally. When you respond with calm, when you meet anger with understanding, others often mirror it. The heated words of one person meet the gentle patience of another, and the storm subsides. The space of compassion invites dialogue, healing, and peace. It is subtle, yet profound, like a ripple spreading through still water. I recall a man who was harshly criticized at work. His first impulse was to defend, to argue, to retaliate. But he practiced mindful silence. He breathed, he observed, he allowed the surge of anger to settle. And then he acted, not out of fire, but with clarity and care. His actions resolved the conflict, restored harmony, and left him lighter, freer, and more at peace than he had been in years. So, my friend, transforming anger into compassion is not a denial of feeling, nor a suppression of emotion. It is a mindful alchemy, a gentle art, a patient turning inward and then outward. It is the heart's own work to see the truth of pain, to feel it, to let it rise, and then to guide it into understanding, into kindness, into quiet generosity. In the end, anger will visit us again and again, as the tide rises and falls, as the seasons change, as the wind moves the clouds. And each time, we can choose to react and burn, or to breathe, to pause, to observe, to let compassion grow. The silent heart, the aware heart, the compassionate heart. This is the heart that knows freedom, that knows the gentle strength of presence, and that turns even the fire of anger into a light that warms rather than destroys. And in this practice, my friend, we find that the world is not changed by force, nor by fury, but by the quiet radiance of a heart that has learned to flow with the storm, to see the suffering behind the words, and to offer kindness where anger once resided. This is the path of mindful transformation, the dance of fire into water, the journey from pain to love, the gentle art of turning the human heart toward peace, step by patient step, breath by gentle breath, day by quiet day, embracing life fully with awareness. My dear friend, now we have reached the quiet corner of our journey together. You see, life is much like a river, always moving, always changing, never stopping for anyone, yet carrying everything gently along its course. And here we are, sitting by its edge, breathing with it, feeling its gentle pull, noticing the reflections of clouds, the shimmer of sunlight, and the ripples of our own thoughts. We have spoken of sorrow and joy, of anger and compassion, of loss and gratitude, and now, in this final moment together, let us speak of life itself, simply, fully, and with awareness. Life is not something to be rushed, nor is it something to be feared. It comes softly and sometimes harshly, like the wind through the trees. Sometimes it bends us, sometimes it whispers gently, sometimes it shakes the leaves so fiercely that we think they will never settle again. But even in those moments, even when the branches sway violently and the roots are tested, there is a rhythm, a pattern, a teaching. Everything has its place. Everything has its time. And everything is connected in ways we often do not see until much later. You have walked through many lessons in this series, and now it is time to rest in the understanding that life, with all its ups and downs, is your companion, not your enemy. I remember a young boy who came to me, carrying a heavy heart, weighed down by fear of the future. "Master," he said, "I do not know if I can be happy. Every day brings new worries, and I am tired." I looked at him with soft eyes and said, my child, happiness is not a destination to be reached or a thing to be grasped. It is like sunlight. It falls freely on the leaves, on the stones, on the river, whether we notice it or not. You cannot hold it, but you can let it touch you." He tilted his head, confused, and I continued, "Life is not about controlling everything. It is about seeing, feeling, and breathing through what is. When you do that, even for a moment, you find peace. You see, awareness is the gentle companion we carry. It is not loud. It does not demand attention. It is the quiet noticing of our own hearts, the simple act of seeing clearly what is happening right now, without judgment, without wishing it were otherwise. It is the awareness that your sadness, your joy, your anger, your love, all of it is passing, and yet all of it is yours, and all of it is real. And when you embrace this awareness, you embrace life fully, as it is, not as you wish it to be. I think of the woman who came to me with grief so deep that she could not imagine another sunrise would ever bring her warmth. She had lost someone she loved dearly, and her heart was heavy with sorrow. I told her, grief is the shape of love. It is the echo of connection. Do not run from it. Do not fight it. Sit with it, breathe with it, and let it teach you about the depth of your heart. She practiced this quietly, day by day, and slowly. She noticed that even in the presence of grief, there were moments of gentle sunlight, of laughter, of simple breath that reminded her that life continues, and she is still here to feel it, to live it, and to love it again. Awareness, my friend, is also the noticing of small miracles. A flower opening in the morning, a bird singing softly as the sun rises, a child's laughter, the taste of tea, the warmth of your own hands. These are not small at all. They are the threads of life's fabric, delicate yet strong, fragile yet unbreakable. When you practice awareness, you see them more clearly, and life becomes not a burden, but a series of precious moments, each worthy of your attention, each teaching you something about presence, about patience, about grace. Do not be fooled into thinking that embracing life fully means always being happy or free from sorrow. No, my dear one, life is a mixture. It is laughter and tears, growth and decay, stillness and movement. Embracing life fully means being willing to feel it all, to accept it all, and to move with it rather than against it. It is like learning to walk through a forest where some paths are smooth, some are rocky, some are overgrown with thorns, and yet each step teaches you balance, care, and attention. And what of time, you ask? Ah, time is gentle and relentless, both a friend and a teacher. We cannot hold it, we cannot pause it, we cannot rewind it. All we have is this moment, right now, and the next breath that comes. And in this moment, if we are mindful, if we are present, we find life in its purest form. The heart beating, the air filling the lungs, the mind noticing itself noticing. This is enough. More than enough. It is everything. I recall a man who spent years chasing dreams, seeking validation, running from his own heart. When he finally stopped, he simply sat and watched the sunrise. And he realized, in that quiet hour, that all his seeking had been a way of missing the life that was already there, right before him, in the simple rising of the sun, in the movement of the wind, in the breath that connected him to the world. Awareness had brought him home. It can bring you home too. Ah, and now, my dear friend, as we sit together in this final part, I want you to carry with you this simple truth. Life is not perfect. Life is not always fair. Life is not always easy. But life is alive. And to be alive is to be part of something vast, something ever-changing, something more beautiful than we can ever fully comprehend. When you live with awareness, you honor this life. When you live with compassion, you honor yourself and others. When you breathe, notice, and allow, you touch the essence of what it means to be human. So walk gently, speak kindly, breathe deeply, notice the small wonders, feel the full range of your emotions. Love, laugh, grieve, and heal. And remember, the path does not end here. It continues with each step, each moment, each breath. Life is not a problem to be solved, but a mystery to be lived. And you, my dear one, are right in the center of it, alive, breathing, feeling, noticing, and learning. And when you find yourself overwhelmed, remember to return to the breath, to the quiet presence within you, to the gentle awareness that has guided you thus far. Sit with yourself, as you would sit with a beloved friend, with patience, with kindness, with openness. And in that quiet, simple act, you find life's deepest gift, the understanding that you are enough, just as you are right now. Ah, yes, my friend, this journey has been long, and yet it is only the beginning. You carry all that we have spoken about within you. The peace, the compassion, the awareness, the courage to feel, to forgive, to let go, to embrace. And in carrying it, you will continue to walk through life with a heart softened by understanding, strengthened by patience, and illuminated by the quiet, unwavering light of awareness. So go gently, go fully, go with your eyes open and your heart wide. Let life touch you in all its richness. Let it teach you, guide you, and surprise you. And know that in every breath, in every step, in every quiet moment of reflection, you are home, you are alive, and you are exactly where you are meant to be. Take this with you, my dear friend, as you continue your journey. Life is yours to experience, with all its depth, with all its beauty, with all its lessons. Walk it with awareness, live it with compassion, and meet each day as a gift, a gentle unfolding, a story that only you can tell fully, deeply, and with a heart that is awake. And now, my friend, we rest here together, in the quiet, in the presence of life itself, knowing that every ending is also a beginning, and every breath is a chance to begin anew. Be gentle with yourself, be patient, be aware, and go forward with peace, with courage, and with the soft, unshakable light of your own awakened heart.